Hello everyone, welcome to another session of Half-Rate Heroes. Oh no, Carl's video's disappeared, I'm sure it'll be fine. I hope you're having a beautiful Saturday morning, even if it's very cold where you are. If it is very cold where you are, come down south where it's less cold. I'm Katie Quixotic. I'll be DMing today and playing everyone who isn't these fine folk, and I will let them introduce themselves.
Hello, I am Carl. I am a fine folk, and today I will be playing Lafcadio Whitehorn, the Tabaxi Warlock.
I'm Vinny.
We look offline.
And we're back online. All right. That was weird. Carl, do you want to introduce yourself again because we weren't there?
Were we not there?
I don't know if we were there.
It says live for me, but it also won't load. So
Just loaded up for me.
Oh,
It
okay.
loaded right at the "we're offline" for me.
We were offline for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's the worst 10 seconds of my day.
Should we start all over again then?
Nope.
I don't know how much everyone caught. I don't really
Let's
know.
start over! Woo!
Yeah. Woo! Hello, welcome to another session of Half-Rate Heroes. I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday morning. Come visit the South if you're too cold. I forget exactly what I said. I'm Katie Quixotic. I'll be DMing. They're great. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm great. I'm Carl. I'm also Lafcadio Whitehorn, the Tabaxi Warlock.
Hi, I'm Vinny. I play Kale Irvine. He's a knowledge cleric of Deneir and half of an elf, and the other half is human. Sorry, I thought I was going to burp. Casey.
I'm Casey H on social media. I'm the champion of Timor. I'm Paleo playing Heckler, Big Fire Chicken, Shoot, Fed Storm, Slayer, Shadows, Nos the Boss, Never Winner, and we were offline again. And before that, we were stuttering. I'm thinking it's a Twitch problem.
Yeah, I think Twitch is fucking up.
Oh no.
Let me pause for a moment. Let me stop broadcasting.
I can't even warn everyone in chat.
Oh, now we're back on? Nope, now we're off.
Oh. Looks on to me, but nope.
Oh,
There's my delay.
Man, I wish our character sheets would get loaded in the mornings on our show.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to start broadcasting again. All right, we should be broadcasting again. Wait, no, we're determining the stream target server. And now we are broadcasting.
Are we?
Are we back?
Sure.
Are we sure?
we? I've been lied to before in the past. I've been hurt.
I will refresh on my end. Oh wait, I think it finally. Okay. Hello. I don't know how much time we want to spend on introductions. I'm Katie Exotic. I'm DMing. Maybe we're back. We'll see what happens. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Carl. Things have been said. And I'm also Lafcadio Whitehorn, the
He's
Tabaxi
Lafcadio.
Warlock.
Yep, sorry, interrupted. I'm Vinny. I play Kale Irvine. He's a half elf and cleric of Deneir. Next.
Casey, I'm Nos. We look good. Seems okay.
Oi, I'm Grim, and I play Taslin Evrio, the Dwarven Sorcerer. I mean, I play Taslin Evrio, and he's a wizard.
Man.
That's all I
Shatter
got.
Kai Wizard. Yeah. So who would like to do a recap? I think perhaps maybe Graham.
I was gonna write a song, and I kinda wrote a song, but then I don't want to sing the song.
Oh, you know. Oh,
But,
you wrote a song. Do it. I was gonna say, you know what? You had to do it last time, so someone else should do it. But no, you wrote a song. I have to do it.
Okay, so Taslin and the very bad, not so great week. The party went to not the Shadowfell. They went to the Feywild to meet Kale's mom. Things didn't go great. Lafcadio stayed for a year, which was really 6 minutes. We came back to the material plane. We went to Wampum's house. And then they started a bar fight. Everyone that wasn't Taslin or Kale started a bar fight, I should reiterate. And then Kale made a temple, prayed, went to bed. Taslin went to the library, got poisoned instead, and cursed. And then Kale saved Taslin in the Temple of Saloon, And Tasman was like, maybe I should worship a new god really soon. And then they went to the Graypeaks, I think. I wasn't paying attention because Tasman was feeling really sick. Tasman gave up his magic items because they made him feel not well. And now we're going somewhere. I don't know. I didn't want to sing. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Filling in a few details. They stopped over at Loudwater, where they had been before, and Kale took up the initiative wanted to restore a library they had found that had gone a bit to ruin. There were some interactions with the people that had started to kind of repopulate the area, though scant. There were a few craftsmen there, perhaps. And on the way over to Graypeak, Taslim got really sick, and so they made a pit stop for the evening. Kale put up a big temple that keeps other things out. There was a really cool moment between the two of them. I think that's kind of where we left off, where you were chilling under the moonlight, and everyone, or at least like Kale had kind of like head off into his little cubby. I don't know if we established exactly what Nas and Locadio are doing for the evening, so I think that's where we should pick up. Thank you, Fool.
Yes, special thank you and recognition and shout out to Fool, who has just cheered 1,000 bits, therefore giving all of the players one reroll.
How do I hold all these advantages?
Ah! Okay, I pulled up the lyrics for the Half Right Heroes theme song for you guys. If you guys want to suffer through it. If Fool says go for the song, we'll go for the song. If he doesn't, then we don't sing the song.
Up to you, Fool.
Oh,
Fool
up
is
to you.
love.
our fate is in his hands. And the delay.
And the delay.
And the delay.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Go for the
of course.
song.
Okay, so it's to the tune of Everybody Was Kung Fu Fighting. So you guys are gonna have to do the na-na-na-na-na-na-nas. All
Oh
right.
no, I don't know that part. Okay.
Everybody was planner jumping.
Na 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 na.
The cast were fast as lightning.
Ba ba doop ba dee da boop.
In fact, it was a little bit frightening.
Beep 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 beep.
They hopped with expert timing. They
Beep.
were funky half-right heroes from Funky Neverwinter. Us and Wobble were chopping them up, and they were chopping them down. It's an ancient D&D art, and everybody knew their part. From a feint into a slip, and Lafcadio hit it with his whip. Everybody was planner jumping.
Ba ba dee ba boop
The cast
boop.
were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they hopped with expert timing. There was Goofy Taslin and Dwarven Wampum. Nos looked for the big boss. Wampum, let's get it on. Kill rose up and raised his globe. Cast spells with his hands. The Sun Initiative made me skip. Now we're into a brand new trip. There we go. That's all you.
Oh, I love it. That was so good. Do you already have DM inspiration?
I have 3 now, but I could go for a 4th.
Heck. I'll give you one that you have to use today.
Okay, that's fair. First roll of the day, I'm just gonna be like, initiative.
Done. I'm using it. Using specifically that one. Okay. Yeah, so Talslin is chilling under the moonlight in the pop-up temple. Kale has gone to have cubby time. What are Nas and Lafcadio doing?
I'm also kind of just done with this day, so I'll go to my cubby as well and just flop down. Hopefully not break the sleeping apparatus. And just lay my arm over my eyes and sigh deeply.
Fair. Lafcadio?
I'll see that everyone seems to want to be left to their own devices, and I will do the same. I will just tuck in for the night.
Yeah. I feel like Wampum will spend a little bit of time having maybe like a drink before bed, and then he'll head off when he sees everything kind of winding down for the night. So of course you'll be the first one up, Taslin. What are you doing while everybody else is still finishing their long rest?
I'm just gonna. I'll say a prayer, and I'll be like, I don't really know how to do this, and I feel like I'm talking to myself, but it's very quiet. And I'll just be like, thank you for helping yesterday. I don't really know what you mean by find the moon. But I suppose I will try. I owe you at least that much. So here I am looking like a fool, talking to myself.
I love it. Can you tell me again what the temple does exactly, Kale? Because I know there's like all kinds of like blocks and words and stuff that are associated with it.
Yeah, I mean, are you looking for anything in particular?
Fae fiends, undead, and
Fae fiends, undead, and celestials, I think.
Celestials, elementals, fae, fiends, and undead, and I blocked all of them except for celestials.
Okay. So you're sitting for a while. You know, you as an elf, you don't have to actually sleep. So there's still like a bit of consciousness during your sort of trance state. You wake up, and are you like out loud, or are you kind of like internally having this like one-sided feeling conversation with yourself?
Probably internal, or maybe like very softly under his breath.
Okay. So you're kind of like sitting in contemplation and kind of doing that thing where you're like sending out the feelers and seeing what happens. And it's been like a rough couple of days, and the sort of like fatigue and icky feeling that you had has kind of like subsided, and you're in general feeling a lot better. And the light definitely seems very comforting. The rest of this temple is a bit dark. There were no specified windows other than the sort of like sunroof. So I assume while there may be some, this is above, so it's kind of like that overhead lighting situation. And as you're sitting there in the sort of like silvery pale moonlight, I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm on silent. Why is this happening? As you're sitting there in this like silvery pale moonlight, and it kind of just like washes over the scene around you, there's this sort of like serene comfort that comes with it. You see like the dust motes kind of floating in the air, illuminated by it, and where sunlight has this like golden warmth to it, this has kind of almost like not cold exactly, but the sort of feeling that you get when you're thinking nostalgically on like the past, like a good memory. There's like the comfort of a good memory that seems to kind of just like not wash over you, but like slowly creep up in the back of your mind, and the like anxieties and worries and like just general difficulties, whatever it is exactly that you're experiencing, so like negative emotions, just seem kind of like subdued while you're sitting and kind of like having this like calming experience.
Okay. I do that until people wake up. Maybe 30 minutes before they wake up, I'll make breakfast.
Okay, what's for breakfast?
Rations, because that's all I have.
Gotcha. Yep, making rations.
I unwrap them for you. Enjoy.
Making ration pancakes. Okay, and sorry. All right, so I assume everyone like wakes up in time. You all went to bed around the same time. You can get up as you please. Any specific morning rituals? Any conversations you want to have before you kind of like decide your plans for the day?
Do the usual workouts. Find a ledge to hang from and pull-ups and stuff.
Okay. Nas is limbering up. That's a rule.
Gotta, prep spells, prep prayers, prayer prep.
Yeah.
Big, long prayer prep by writing them down in the book on a page, and then ripping that page out and putting it stuffing it under my breastplate.
Okay. Keeping it close to your heart kind of thing, or just like easy access?
Just because I guess close to the heart is the closest to the reason.
Okay. How long does it take you to prep your spells?
Oh, no. don't ask me that.
You don't have to give me like an exact number, because I think with clerics you only have to spend the minute per spell level if you're changing them or something like that. Maybe
Yeah,
I forget.
which could wind up. I mean, it'll probably take like 45 minutes.
Okay, so it's a good bit.
Yeah.
So when you're doing this, it is still a bit of like a devotion time because it's prayers, correct? As you're writing them down, so you're spending them like focused on Deneir.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead and make a religion check for me.
I rolled a 2, so that's a total of 12.
You know, Deneir's got your back. You know that. Has laid down. Yeah.
Good. Great.
Okay. Taslin has a ration set out for everyone. How's Lefkadio's morning?
Picking at the rations.
Gotcha.
Appreciate you unwrapping these, Taslin. Well done. This is
You're welcome. Did you have any good dreams?
not that I can remember.
Huh. To be honest, I wasn't really certain if Tabaxi dream.
Oh yeah, all the time.
When you're taking cat naps.
Yep. That's the first time I heard that one, Taslin.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I've used that at least twice. It doesn't get old, though.
You'd be
A
surprised.
classic. Well, enjoy those rations.
Yeah, and you're all able to kind of like take your breakfast in time, whether you eat the rations or something else is up to you. And is there anything particular you do before you continue on your journey?
Brr.
That doesn't have to be, just a question.
Nope.
Okay.
So we're still like 2 days out, right?
You are, let's see here. Because you had to stop a little bit earlier than you'd initially planned. My map is not being very happy with me right now. So you stopped about here. So, let's see here. In about like a full 12 hours of travel, you can now make it to like roughly like the edge of the mountain range. You'll be far beyond the edge of the forest. There is like a little plains area between the forest and the edges of like the sort of edges of a mountain range where it's really kind of like big hills actually more than anything else. If you travel a little bit longer than 12 hours, you could probably make it to the end of the sort of like hill region to like the base of the actual mountain range where it starts to really form like tall peaks and things like that. That would be a really long travel day, but that can be the goal if you want to kind of like push it. I assume you're waking up fairly early because you kind of stopped as the evening went on and all pretty quickly went to bed after like the events of the evening. So you're probably getting up like before first light kind of thing, getting ready to go, and you would have the opportunity to leave at or slightly before first light. So you would, by darkness, if you traveled the entire light of day, be basically at the edge of the mountain range, yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to push it like past 12 hours. It's a really long time.
Yeah. And you could, if you wanted to, like stop and take breaks, like land in the place of the forest that looked serene or whatever, and like get up and do stretches or whatever it is that you need. Like this is your journey, so you can plot it however you'd like. If you want to do something like that to make it seem like less of a travel time, or take like a nap during the day, like short rest, where you can like loosen up, have something to eat without the burden of travel upon you, then you could still make it pretty far. So it's kind of like, let me know how long you're wanting to travel and what you want to do along the way, and I'll tell you where you can get.
Okay. I cast Water Breather before we leave the temple. I cast Mage Armor on myself.
Okay.
That's all I got today.
Okay.
So the temple gets left behind it stays for 24 hours after I cast it, so I would have left the door open. Screw it, if anybody, because nobody else can open it besides us, so.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody
So they'll
wants to
just
do it,
see this building and they'll like the door will be open, but they'll hit like an invisible barrier kind of thing, basically.
if they're not allowed in it. If they're like one of those creatures, they'll have to make a thing. But if it's just like a regular
Oh.
person, they can just walk in.
Okay. I was thinking Magnificent Mansion. Right, this is a temple. That's
Yeah.
very different. Okay.
As far as rest stops, I mean, you gotta stop every like 3 hours just for like 10 minutes, just get up and you gotta just, because you start falling asleep, it gets really boring up there. It's all the same looking.
Mm-hmm.
I have to drive a lot tomorrow, so and I've done the driving a million times, so I know exactly what that feeling is, where your bones start to get tired. You just need to just go out and like you do a high kick and it like pops your knee back into place. Stuff like that,
Okay.
So probably do that like, I don't know, 4 times.
All right. Yeah. I mean that eats up less than an hour of travel time. So, and then how many hours? You said every couple of hours do that, and then how many hours of travel?
Like 12.
Like 12. Okay. Then yeah. With all that, then basically, if you're looking at the map that Carl and Casey linked to me originally, the lore maps one, you don't have to be, but you basically kind of make it to the top of the first hill, the one there. Like there's like a series of these before the mountain ranges I mentioned, and the one on the very end where the sort of like flatlands drifts away and there's like the small hill region, and then there's like the first big one that isn't quite a mountain but really is just like a really large hill. You can kind of make it to the top of that by the end of the 12 hours. The journey is mostly uneventful. The forest is nice and peaceful, which is a nice change from the sort of like hectic events of the last 24 hours. Every time you stop to do your stretches and your like limbering and your general breaks, like mental breaks and all that, it's just kind of like peaceful foresty sounds. There are a couple of times where you hear something kind of large moving around and like brush off in the distance, which is probably just like a predator animal. Nothing ever seems to bother you along the way. You do see a wide variety of nice birds sitting in trees. You hear a lot of nice bird songs. See a couple of nests a couple of times when you go to like dip in to take your breaks and stuff. And other than that, you kind of arrive without too much going on there.
Thank goodness we finally stopped. I've already finished these 2 books I picked up at the library over these 12 hours.
Which books were you reading?
The curse one, and then one of the shiny ones Lefcadio gave me.
Okay.
I think I have them written down.
Uh-huh. Did I already tell you what was in the cursed book, or did I tell you kind of like the overview?
I think you said I was skimming it, so the overview of it.
Okay, what have I told you about it so far?
That it is a book on curses, and I got it from Loudwater, and that it had like the general idea, but not like in-depth knowledge.
Okay.
And then I also have the book on teleportation. That was the other one, on teleportation, planar travel.
Okay. Is that the shiny one, the teleportation book? Okay. I give these things, then I'm like, you're going to have to tell me what they are, because I forget which is which. So, as you're reading over the course of the next 12 hours, you have a good amount of time to do some in-depth study on both. Of course, like, the planar travel book, you definitely can't read in just 12 hours. The Curses book is much smaller. It does seem to be more academic than you were expecting, since a lot of curses, well, there are like arcane magical curses, a lot do have sort of like divine origins, more so that kind of that type of magic rather than the arcane. But this does seem to be somebody who took this sort of like academic approach to studying what situations people have been in when they've been cursed, what they've encountered when they've been cursed, different things that have been done to break curses. A lot of it kind of points back to seek out someone of a faith that you ascribe to and see if there's anything they can do to help you. There are a couple of situations where, of course, with like the more arcane curses, then there are specific spells noted that can break curses, especially the sort of like lower level ones. The few things that are of note, other than just being good general information about curses, it all kind of points to being similar like processes, although depending upon which faith someone ascribes to or which one they approach, the clerics or the people of faith might send the cursed person or the person acting on behalf of the cursed person on different tasks. They might gather different materials or complete different objectives. It all seems to be like paying homage to either the deity that they hope to break the curse or the one they feel might have cursed them, in the sense of like not arcane curses, or the being that they feel might have cursed them. It's always like seeking help either from the origin or from someone you feel to be as powerful or more powerful than the origin. And there's always some sort of like tribute that needs to be presented, and that kind of varies. But that seems to be the general it's like an academic look at the history of several that they were able to get like information on and kind of like compile together. So it's interesting, but there's not a lot of like varied information in each case study, if that makes sense. And then the teleportation one, this one was another sort of like, it was an illuminated manuscript, and so it looks like it's been rewritten. Not the original author didn't create it this way. This is one of those like a monk in study remade this book. And although the words seem to be written from someone that has more of an arcane perspective, there are a few passages where it looks like there might have been like additional notes made or something that have like a different tone to them than the original author, like a different sort of like speech style. And so there are a few things that you can pick out that like don't seem to be good information or seem to be like speculation that the reader was making along the way that they've added as like asides. But the parts that you're able to get through and really like take a good look at have to do with the initial sort of like venturing into interplanar travel that mortal beings did, how initially there was a lot of like discovering of portals to other planes in different places. Feywild plains are often near somewhere that has a lot of like verdant nature. There was a discovery to the plane of fire near like a mountain volcano in one region. Different things like that. There was a sort of like a region that had been more like grassland plain, and after a drought had turned into kind of like almost a dust bowl area. And when that happened, somebody happened upon like a portal to a plane of earth. But it was through these portals that the mortals were able to, and like the understanding of magic and the gift of Mithra and all that, that they were able to like fashion their own portals and learn how to harness the sort of magic that it takes to travel from plane to plane. And it talks a lot about like the attunement or the like focus that an individual needs to have to traverse the planes when they're casting a spell like this, so something doesn't go awry, as often can happen with interplanar travel, since it can be a little bit variable like that. Is there anything in specific you're looking for from either book?
No, and I'll just get like bullet points from you after the game.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
I don't want to drag it on.
Okay, cool. So is there anything else anyone was doing during the sort of like 12-hour travel day? There's time for stuff. Yep.
I will just acknowledge really quick that Super Manizak has gifted the channel with 10 subscriptions. Thank you so much, Super Manizak.
Wow, yeah, that's so nice. Thank you for that. How generous. Merry Christmas to all, or Happy Holidays, whatever it is that you celebrate. Right, so go ahead.
I was say I was just traveling. I'm just trying to keep up with the Kale and Nos carpet.
That's fair. Okay. If nothing else in particular is going on, then you're able to make it to that sort of like really large hill. It does give you a good vantage point on the area with a cursory glance around. You're able to see the mountain range. Of course, you could see it from afar, but now it's like up close. You can tell that even the highest peak, the tree line goes up pretty far. It's not like huge mountain. And there is, even from this distance, where you would expect maybe snow, there is like sort of like more of a green hue. So even though you're pretty far away, it does seem like there's some sort of like foliage even at the peaks. There is a river, the one that you had been traveling by earlier. This is followed along in the area. You can see, I'm looking to see if Lork was ruined. That was the one that was abandoned, right? Yeah. You can see what, like in the direction of that city, you can see where it stood. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of activity. You're pretty far away, so that would be difficult to discern. But the things that are easy to see from a distance that denote like humanoid activity, like fires and smoke and things like that for like forging in the comfort of a home, there doesn't seem to be any of that you can discern from this distance. And other than that, there's just a whole lot of hills and a mountain range. What do you do when you land?
Find an open space to make another temple.
Okay.
And I want the door to face south.
Okay. So away from the river and away from the forest, down towards like the moor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sounds good. I think that's cardinal for this map. Yeah. Yeah, there's the High Star Lake and the High Moor down south, so it would be facing towards the lake and the moor. All right. And that takes how long to cast? An hour?
Yup.
Okay. So Kale spends an hour after landing, casting the spell that you saw him cast yesterday. Anyone else doing anything in particular when she land?
Yeah, when I see Kale casting the temple spell, I'm going to take an hour to like pull out my brazier and put some incense and herbs in, and I'm going to take an hour to summon Iskar as a devil crab.
A devil crab. All right. You complete your hour-long ritual, unless anyone has anything else they want to do. The temple pops up. Does it look the same as it did yesterday? Sunroof cubbies kind of thing?
Yeah, it pretty much always looks that way.
Okay. And then, so devil crab. Describe how devil crab is different than normal crab.
Crabs are just creepy, and so
Yes.
he's like a fiend crab now.
Okay.
Which I didn't think this through because now he's still not going to be able to get it. But
Absolutely not.
So I think like he has like, you look at like, you know how crabs have like those little eyes? You just see the fires of like an inferno and endless torture and suffering just burning. And, like no sympathy for mortal lives.
Okay.
He just
That's
goes
fair.
after anyone that comes near and he just pinches them. Just.
He's like the crab meme with the crab that's holding the knife.
Yeah.
His little pincer. Like, this is Iskar right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah, he's got sort of like a malodorous feeling to him. He's got a lot of rage boiling inside. He's a weird little sea spider body. And in general, just like, looks like a badass, kind of, for a crab,
Yeah.
especially. And I like second and third, that crabs are super creepy. Absolutely. Yeah, so he has to chill outside. But you're all free to like by the time you land after like the full 12-hour day with the breaks, the sun is like setting over the horizon. The sky is washed in the sort of like purple and golds of like the dusky twilight sort of time of day. You know that there's not too much sunlight left, and that the night will overtake you soon. So.
Another shout out to Superman Isaac, who just dropped another sub bomb. 10 subs gifted to
Oh my
users in
gosh.
chat.
Okay, so after 20 gift subs, I have to ask, I don't think there's necessarily like a mechanic for this per se. If there is, I'm unaware of it. Is there something that you would like to insert into the story? Because I feel like after 20 gift subs, the least I can do is give you the opportunity to impact the story in a meaningful way. So if you have an idea, feel free to put it in chat or to send me a PM on Twitch. I'll keep an eye on it over here. And if you need some time to think about it, that's cool too. Whatever, Superman is Zach, because that's awesome.
And Daddy needs a new pair of shoes.
Daddy needs a new pair of shoes. Your boots are worn a little thin after your year in the Feywild. There's an additional year of wear on them over everyone else, so that is true. And yeah, and if you're really like, I don't really have any like guidelines for this Superman attack, so like if you have an idea, send it to me. If it seems like super crazy, we'll workshop it, but other than that, I think it'll be probably fine. So yeah, we'll go with that. The evening overtakes you. You're starting to be able to, it's like that time of day where you can like see the moon in the sky, but the sun is still up. The light is fading. The world around you again looks like remarkably peaceful, and it's really like serene for the events that you've experienced again. Like you had a rough couple of days there, and so it's been kind of nice to have this sort of just like normal day. Now it's a lot of travel that isn't necessarily normal, but other than that, like all the craziness, this like end of the world, you're having to save things, you're going up against a god, you've had like personal encounters with perhaps someone or a proxy of. There's just been a lot of like really powerful things going on in the last 12 to 15 hours have just been kind of like you getting to spend time together. And there's like some sort of like nice like comfortable silence, I guess, in those moments. And so there's maybe if you were feeling like anxious or like overwhelmed or anything like that, then there's maybe a little bit of like comfort in this having like no craziness go on for a little bit of time.
Actually, I think Wampum and I might be so bored at this point from all the travel and not getting to move around very much that we're just going to go spar out back for like a good 2 hours or so.
That makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. He's excited about the prospect. He downs a big cup of Thunderbelly ale and pours you a little bit, offers it to you if you want some.
I will raise the stakes. Challenge.
Ooh.
Everything is one-handed. Don't spill a drop.
Okay. Don't spill a drop. So you're each going to have like a cup in one hand?
Yeah, we're going to be sparring while we're drinking, yeah.
All right. So he'll one-up you and say that you have to fight with your offhands and drink with your main hands.
Okay.
Or like not one-up, but like raise again, like in response to the challenge. Is like, all right, let's make the deal a little bit sweeter. And so you're able to spend as much time as you would like to, kind of like drinking and trading like good hits. That's sort of like when you don't pull your punches, but it's your friend, so you're not looking to like snap a neck or anything like that, but it like feels good. It gets your adrenaline moving. There's some alcohol in your system, and it's like generally sort of like a nice sparring exchange.
I wield a heavy weapon, so what I'm having to do in order to use it one-handed is I'm having to push it behind my back and actually use my back as like a way to stabilize it and the front end move it.
Okay. Yeah, cool. And he normally uses a shield, so he's having to offhand use his. What did I give him? A big axe? Yeah, he's got a big axe. So he's got this big axe in like his offhand, and he's so used to being able to defend himself that a couple of times he like almost goes to deflect something with the mug, and then thinks better of it and kind of like parries. Sort of thing, and it's kind of funny. Anyone who watches too, it's kind of interesting to watch them like kind of do this sort of like dance with clearly like the less dominant side, and also trying not to spill a drink. Let's go ahead and do. I can roll for Wampum if I can find him on here. Where are you at? Let's go ahead and do.
I can roll for him as well if you need to.
Okay, yeah, good, because I don't even know where his. Yeah. I have to scroll forever. I have so much open.
Like a hand axe attack? Is that what we're kind of doing?
No, I want them both to make, like, essentially dex saves to keep from spilling the drink. Because I feel like the goal is more in this moment about, like, not spilling the drink while you're trading the blows, right?
Well, Wampum got an 8.
Okay.
I got an 18.
All right. So clearly, Wampum is the first to spill a drink. What is it that you do while you're sparring that catches him off guard that he's not able to save his drink from?
I'll go for his legs. I'll try to trip him with the back blunt edge of the glaive.
Okay.
And just go low.
Yeah. So you've got this sort of like positioned against your back, and you've got your drink in your one hand, and you've been kind of like reaching out and kind of baiting him a few times, and he gets a little overconfident, and you switch it up on him, and you're able to, as he goes to kind of like almost lunge forward, then you're able to flip that around and stick the blunt end like into the ground almost, and he trips over it. And while he doesn't fall flat on his face, that lurching motion was enough to make some of the Thunderbelly ale slosh over the edge, and you just see the few drops fall off the bottom, and he's like, good one.
Hey, girl! Make
Yeah.
me spill me ale.
And finishes his drink and fills his cup back up. And it feels good.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. All right. Kale, what are you doing after you put up your temple?
Gonna hang out. I mean, get on one of the things, the flying carpets.
Okay.
And he's gonna kind of just hover like, I don't know, like 15, 20 feet off the ground, facing south. And he's going to sit there with like a bowl with some incense slid in it and some mud in the bowl.
Okay.
And wood. And he's just basically gonna do some chanting and praying and stuff to control the weather. So he keeps it kind of clear, and it warms it up a little bit, I think. What time of year did we say it was?
I believe it was late autumn. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking. So, yeah, he kind of like warms it up a little bit, but not like totally unseasonably warm. Doesn't want to like fuck everything up, but... Because you gotta imagine the kind of impact this sort of spell would have on, global weather patterns. If I can just take a 5-mile chunk in the middle of autumn and turn it into summer, that's Jesus.
Yeah.
Cascading issues
Yeah.
off of that. Anyway, so he's just gonna do that and just look south and think about stuff. Think about how like they were in the High Moor not that long ago, and they on the other side of it was Dragonspear Castle, and they were there at one point, and how close he's come so many times to being back home at Fort Tamal, the Borskier Bridge, because it's like right on the other side of the High Moor. He's never actually gone. And the first time he's talked to anybody since he left was, the other day when he messaged Rangrim. And I don't know. That's just poignant to him. Kale's just gonna think about that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. So the weather is slightly more temperate than it was before, but not so as to upset the local region. And Kale's in what appears to everyone else as some sort of like quiet contemplation. If you wanted to like discern the nature of that, then you could do an insight check. And oh my gosh, is this another 10 gift subs? Oh my goodness. Yep. Thank you again. That's super, super, super generous and kind of you. Yeah, I'm a little taken aback. That is so nice. Please do, if you think of anything, like I said, reach out to me. We'll come up with something good. My goodness. Oh, Commander Polestar got one. Yay.
Aw.
I know them.
Ha-ha.
Superman Zach, you're great. And Lefcadio, is there anything specific you're doing while Kale gets the thing set up? I think maybe I already asked you. I forget.
You didn't, but
Okay.
nothing specific. Again, okay. I see Nos and Wampum walk off for sparring, and both Taslin and Kale go into their ritual casting. And then I've been away for a year, so I've already felt like separated. So it's like if he had been there with them and not been separated for a year, he probably would feel like, why am I getting the cold shoulder? But because he's been away for a year, it doesn't really seem like they're like neglecting him or anything. It's just that they've grown apart. And that makes a lot of sense for him since that amount of time has passed.
That's fair. Yep. So the temple goes up. Kale is spending some time in quiet contemplation. You all are free to go about your evenings as you wish before you go to bed. And unless there's anything else you'd like to do or any other heartstrings you'd like to pull on, then we'll pick up the next morning. Okay. What time do you all want to wake up? Tazlin, of course, you're the first one up again. Anything special you do before everybody else wakes up?
Before I went to bed, I used prestidigitation to make a little shield buck, like a shield pin with like prestidigitation because it's a little non-magical trinket. So a little shield pin that I gave to Iskar because he has to stand outside on the doorstep. And so I'll go check if he's still there.
So you wake up. It's still dark outside. Because you've not wake up, excuse me. You're transcends. You feel rejuvenated. You have regained all your spell slots, what have you. You open up the door, or you look outside, I should say. I don't know exactly what your door looks like, Kale. Is there like a bar that you can peek out of outside, or to look outside? Does there need to be like an opening of the door?
Yeah, you probably need to open the door.
Okay. So you open the door to glance down to see if Iskar is still out there, and Iskar is still out there. And he's kind of like scuttling back and forth, like really quickly, and sort of like almost like erratically. Like there's a lot of energy to what's going on. And make a perception check.
I might as well use that inspiration.
Maybe, yeah.
To roll this, so I'll do that. Because I think we've established Tazlin's not very perceptive.
Mm-hmm.
20, nat 20, wow. 27.
Nice.
So perceptive.
Woo. So you, in this sort of like middle of the night, like darkness, there's of course like the illumination of the moon and the stars, so it's not like you're in complete darkness, and you're an elf, so you can see just fine. There's like this sound that almost at first feels like it might be like a breeze whipping through the sort of like trees that you can still see kind of like almost like at the base of this like hellacious region, but hellacious, not hellacious. But you realize that this like moan, this like long high-pitched whine almost is really more like howling. There's like there's an intent behind it. There's a voice behind it that isn't just air being forced through a region. And there are several creatures or something making this sort of like howling noise, like maybe like a big pack of wolves or something of that nature that like seems to be maybe causing Iskar some sort of like oh no kind of feeling, like maybe you didn't remember hearing this beforehand, and so there's a little bit of like maybe nervous scuttling that kind of like clued you into this not being exactly like just like nature or something like that. So you notice that you don't necessarily like see anything in your immediate region. It does have that sort of like feeling like it's like echoing off the mountain, so wherever it's coming from, it's really loud. You're pretty sure, based on like the roll that you made, you're paying a lot of attention, that it's coming from the general region of the moor, but not like out deeply in the moor. It's more like the edges of the moor, like along the like mountain range, so kind of like south and east from you. You still don't see anything, but you're able to, despite like the kind of like echoing and reverberation, pinpoint that whatever it is like out there.
I will pick Iskar up and be like, you silly crab. Oh, don't pinch me. I'll set him back down and be like, my bad. Go back. At ease, Iskar. Chill. It's okay. I'm sure that there won't be any problems, but good job. You really nailed it this time. And I'm going to go back inside.
Can a crab happily clap? I don't think even a fiend crab would happily clap, but there is like a, instead of like the aggressive, there's kind of like, yeah, castanets almost. Clack, clack, clack. Okay. Everybody else can wake up in turn. How early would everyone like to wake up, individually or together?
Muted.
I'm muted? Oh. I was like, I swear that I was just talking to someone and they could hear me. What happened? Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
as the captions tried to explain, 4 a.m. because we have to make good time,
Okay.
as my father would always say.
I was about to say, okay, Dad.
Yeah. Kale's the one like at the door shaking the rugs at everyone, like jingling something metallic despite not needing it for whatever, like however it is you control these rugs.
I brought this temple into this world and I'll take it out. So help me God.
I love it.
Yeah, I'll roll out of bed. Literally, I'll just roll out of bed, hit the ground, continue rolling till I'm at the door.
I have to say, this traveling without the amulet, I mean, I used to do it all the time, but then we got the amulet and it was a lot more convenient. I really hope we can get that amulet fixed, I guess is what I'm saying.
I, too, hope we can get that amulet fixed. That would be oh so wonderful, because flying on carpets for 12 hours a day is such a delight.
Where do we have to try to get to Westgate?
Well, we still have that cube or whatever that was, right? We never gave that back to that person.
I think Taslin goes whiter than he usually is, because I think he just realized he still has that and hasn't given it back. Yeah. We do have that. I'm going to have to make a note. I'm going to pull out my journal, write down, bring back to Loic, and underline.
But I mean, since we still have it, I don't remember exactly how it worked. Could we use it to? I mean, we're already here. In the future, we'll talk about it afterwards.
Yes, that seems like a problem for tomorrow, team.
Sure. Anyway, everybody's up and ready to go, right?
Yeah, well, are we still heading that way? That
Mhm.
big peak over there?
Yep.
Oh, I'm not sure if I should mention this, but there was a lot of howling going on this morning.
From where?
Around the High Moors. Like on the edge, like south and east of us.
Okay. I'm not overly concerned about that.
That's fair.
We're outside.
It's nice to know, though. Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome. Anyone have anything silver?
No, why? Are you concerned about lycanthropes? Or
No.
fiends?
I mean, after being cursed, I'm speculative of almost anything.
Okay. Well, we're about to fly away from that, so...
That's fair. Well,
You good?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm so good.
All right. We jump on the carpets. We leave.
Montage.
It's the final fly up. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Okay.
Do.
Okay. This, from where you landed, the second peak would take over a day to get to. You could, let's see here. Another 12-hour, let's see here. Hold on one second. I had calculated it. Ah, yes, there we are. So if you were to do another like 15-hour travel day, you could basically reach, you would be able to make it beyond the first peak of the mountain to like basically the base of the second peak where the river tributary is. Or if you were to stop a little bit short, then you could make it essentially to like the first mountain in the range. That would only be... Oh no, where's the clear? That would only be like 12, 13 hours. So it kind of depends on how long you're wanting to travel. If you were to try to make like a straight flight to the like range of the second peak, it would take like almost a day and a half.
My vote is to get to the first peak and set up there so we can see stuff. You know.
Sounds good to me, mate.
Yeah.
Sounds wonderful.
Yep. That will. Oh, why? That we'll say that takes about, like I said, whatever, 12, 13 hours, something like that. I calculated for us. I was like, I don't want to divide by 0.5s. Like in my head, I'm not going to do it. So as Tazlin mentioned, as you're all like departing in the morning, anything, let me know if there's anything you want to do before you leave. You can hear water breathing. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Water
That's all I
breathing.
got.
That's fair. So after Tazlin casts water breathing, and you're all getting on the carpets and ready to go, you do hear the howling that he mentioned from the direction, roughly, that he mentioned coming from. It does seem like there are several creatures, whatever they are, but they're so far they feel like they're south of you. So, and again, nobody really can like see anything. It's more like the sound sort of like echoing. So you take off in this sort of like pre-dawn light, and you're able to, by the end of your 12, 13 hour travel day, are you going to stop and take breaks this time too throughout the like hills in the region, or are you going to do a straight shot this time?
Absolutely, we will stop.
Okay. So there are several other like hill peaks that you'd be able to stop on, so you could still keep like a good view of the area. As you get closer and closer to the sort of like actual edge of the mountain range, then you do start to see like creatures running around at like the base of the hills and between like the crags of this sort of like rocky region. If you were to like spend time trying to like discern what they are, then you can go ahead and make some perception checks and try to figure out what it is that you're seeing. But if they're just basically keeping an eye out, then you're able to kind of like travel on each time you stop.
Yeah.
Roll a 16.
Roll a 16. You're able to see pretty large creatures running around. You initially thought wolves, maybe Tazlin. This is bigger than a wolf. You do see like almost like a big haunch kind of behind what looks like the creature's head, you imagine, because of the direction it's moving. There's this like tuft of fur that's coming off of it. They're quadrupeds. They do have tails. The heads that you're able to like catch glimpses of, like off in the distance as you see them moving between like different rocks and things, you do notice that the jaw seems to be much larger than what you'd expect for like a wolf-like creature too. Based on the shape of it, they've either got a very large set of teeth or very strong like crushing jaws maybe. And I guess make like a history or a nature check to see if you can like determine based on those clues what it might be. Did anyone else make a perception check? No. Okay.
$15 nature.
You think that they are probably either like a warg or maybe like a barghest or something along those lines. Which, like, after thinking about it for a bit, they're kind of like the region has like roaming packs of those like around this sort of mountain range, so they don't look like out of place or anything as you're able to like study them for a little bit during your like break times and like think about what you know from this region. Since you all have been here before, imagine it wouldn't have been too difficult to pick up this type of information. Yeah, so other than that, if there's nothing else special anyone wants to do, you can make it to the, basically like the tip, you know, like it's not like an exact point, of course, but the sort of like the top portion of this, the edge of the mountain range where this particular peak is separated from the rest of them because that tributary feeds out and it leads into the lake that like bleeds out into the sea. But you're able to get like a much better look at the sort of like peak that you're heading for, and you have the choice of either trying to like make a straight beeline and be far above the ground, or like the next day, of course, or kind of like play the safe route and like go down and back up. Up to you guys.
Just go
I
for it.
don't know.
No, let's just go for it. Come on.
We went over this. We don't have Featherfall for everybody.
It's cool. I'll catch everybody.
Well, I mean,
that,
you won't have to catch me. Me and Iskar will be fine.
And Lefcadio can fly, and I'll catch everybody else.
Well, so long as we're high enough and there's enough time to fall, I'll have enough time to cast the spell. So because you fall really quick, and you got to be quick on your air to be able to cast a spell like that. But
I'm begging you guys, let me just have like a little bit of a thrill in the last like 3 days, please. Just a little.
I throw Iskar at her immediately. Just
Reactionarily, just dodge.
Iskar comes flying at you. You kind of like casually lean out of the way as this like crab goes sailing by, like desperately clamoring to like pinch you.
Well, that he's probably going to resent me for that.
Was that a crab?
I mean, more specifically, that was Iskar. Was Iskar? Was. Don't worry about it. He'll be fine.
He's gotta hate you by now.
he goes rolling down the mountain.
Yeah, just do. No, it'll be cool. It'll be cool.
Okay, I'm gonna go find an open space to make a temple. Then tomorrow, we'll soar into the atmosphere.
Yay!
Up where the air is right. Okay, so the top of this this peak, as you noticed from a distance, despite being sort of like late autumn and being a mountain peak, these aren't actually the like notably high. And I've looked and I cannot find an altitude for the Graypeak Mountains. So there are definitely mountains, but they're not like of notable height. You would still expect to see snow-capped tips, maybe perhaps not on this one, but on the one that you're traveling to for sure. And again, it looks like remarkably like earthy toned from this distance even. So that's lucky. You're not having to like trudge through snow or anything. The tops of them, this one similarly is like, there's like rockiness to it, but there's definite like fertile soil about because there are like shrubs and there's a few trees, but there's like a flat enough space for you to be able to cast your not mansion, temple, to summon your temple.
Yes.
Iskar will again, of course, have to chill outside. But other than that,
I mean, I suppose I could summon him back. He's a weasel now.
he's a weasel.
Less threatening, I think.
If he does that, I'm gonna actually entice Iskar to come get an apology from me and some scritches. I should have caught you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you have to summon him again?
Yeah, I have to take an hour, I think. Yeah, I have to take an hour and then burn another 10 gold worth of charcoal incense.
Oh no, 10 gold.
Oh no!
The hour that Kale's been summoning his temple, Tazlin also has just been resummoning Iskar after that moment of hilarity, and this weasel pops into existence. Its little nose is kind of sniffing around. What type of creature did you decide this time?
He'll be a celestial weasel.
Okay.
So I like to think like on his fur are like glowing like stars, and like his fur's like all black sheen.
Okay. Yeah, almost like black and glittery kind of a bit to him. Yeah, and his eyes are kind of like sparkly, like not actively sparkly. Something's happening outside of my apartment. Somebody might have fallen off a ladder. I don't know.
Who cares?
But there's a sort of like life to it that isn't the sort of like burning intense hatred that you saw with Crab Iskar as it flew past your face, Nas. So when you like kind of like do the lean down and try to get him to come over to you, he does that like weaselly move where the body is kind of like too bendy and a little awkward looking, perhaps. But he comes up and he kind of like sniffs the end of your hands.
Get a little scritch underneath the chin. Just do that however long he wants it to last for.
After a few moments, he'll just kind of like flop down on his side, and just kind of like.
You know what? I'm just gonna pick him up, put him on my shoulder, and be like, "This is my familiar now."
He'll stand up on your shoulder and put his like front paws like on like your head almost, and do like almost like a meerkat thing where he's like looking around from up here, just chilling.
Excellent.
Okay. And unless there's anything special anyone wants to do, then you can take your rest for the evening and wake up in the morning.
Sounds great.
All right. This is what travel is like when you don't have an amulet, guys. There's a whole lot of just travel. Okay, so again, go ahead, Taslim.
So before we go to bed, what I'm going to do is I am going to burn a level... what do I want to burn? A level... No, I don't want to burn a level 8 spell.
Yeah, you do.
No, man. That's too many. I'll burn a level 8 spell slot to summon 9 shadow skelly boys.
Okay.
But they have to be outside, because...
So it's like you're prowling skeletal guardians to this
and then,
Temple of Deneir.
And then before I go to bed, I'm going to use my Arcane Recovery to get that 8th spell slot back, so that I can extend it another 24 hours. Yeah,
Okay.
for dominance.
Alright.
Oh, I'll give them their instruments, I guess, but I only accounted 5 of them. The ones that we had made way back in Waterdeep.
Did you ever go pick those up? I think that they're still... Oh, we did.
Because then we put the big giant sword in the bag of holding, and I had to drag it, and Wampum wouldn't help me carry it.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. So 5 of them have really badass metal-looking instruments.
So I'll have them play for my amusement.
Okay. What type of music do they play?
I was gonna say death metal, but I guess oldies is probably more...
Oldies! What
Beach
song?
Boys.
Wish they all could be like the Westgate Girls.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
I like to imagine that they're actually very terrible. Like, the skeletons it's just like boom, offbeat, every single one of them just not matching up.
Yeah, and the instruments aren't quite in tune. It's like the middle school medley version of each song kind of thing. Like, they're trying, bless them. They're trying so hard. Yeah, it's definitely that sort of like, how long does it take you to cast that spell?
I think it's 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Animate Dead casts in 1 minute.
Oh.
So it takes a drop of blood, a piece of flesh, and a pinch of bone dust. So I just do that. It doesn't consume them, so...
So no small collection of drops of blood, pinches of bone dust, and bits of skin. Okay, good.
Yeah. And how many of them are... I got an extra 1. 10 additional targets, plus 1... So I have 11 Skelly Boys. I'm sorry. Okay. I did my math wrong. Ugh.
So there's 5 in the band, and there are 6 backup dancers.
Just clapping. Yeah. They're the audience. They're all sitting down and clapping.
Yeah. There you go. So that's happening outside. And you did this before going to bed, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess maybe to drown out the howling. It'll just be like weird solos.
Okay. How long do you want them to play?
Oh, they're going to play all night unless attacked. That's my explicit command to them is, you are to not stop playing until one of you is attacked or something comes within 30 feet of you. That's not the 5 of us.
Okay. Duly noted. Anything else before everyone goes to bed? In light of the skeletal performance going on outside? Lafcadio, it hurts just a little bit.
Yeah.
That's sort of like, I could help them. This is fine. Yeah.
I tried to teach them music, but they only know the bare bones.
Oh, it's because it's not fully orchestrated and you're running on a skeleton crew.
I mean, I wanted to add an instrument to the band, but they don't have any organs.
More puns. More puns.
Sorry, they aren't very humorous. That's a leg quote. I could do this all day, but I won't. Because I'm going to have my reverie now. Goodbye. I'm gonna go rest in the moonlight.
Okay. So you all take a rest for the evening. What is going on? I'm just gonna ignore it. I'm gonna ignore him. Sorry. Is it super loud? You can hear it. I know you can't. You can't hear it? Okay. Somebody's banging on something. You take your rest for the evening. Everybody does in turn. Talzin, you are entering your sort of like trance relaxation state under the light of the moon. Lafcadio, you dream about the Feywild. There is a particular lesson that was a little bit difficult for you to learn, and part of it was that you had two separate teachers. You had somebody who was like expert at your instrument, and then your primary tutor was this Dwarven girl. During your time there, she had explained to you that she was actually kidnapped by the Moon Court as a child and was intended to be used for sport for the like children that were up and coming in the Moon Court to train them on like hunting and tracking. And she was rescued by the Rose Court, and after spending so much time in the Feywild at such a young age, just kind of became part of the region until becoming an Archfey herself. She doesn't know how old she is. She doesn't know how long she was a child for. And it was interesting for her, and one of the reasons why she wanted to take on an apprentice was to see if what happened to her and the power that she was able to tap into, despite not being from this place, would work on another mortal. That was part of this. And so you're having this dream about this conversation that she has with you before she's teaching you these skills that she wanted to impart. Kale, you dream about a grand library. You're walking through halls of just like 40-foot tall, just books. There are several avenues. Everything is neatly organized. It's beautiful. There are several people tending to books. There's somebody sitting at a table who is rebinding a book, whose spine had been broken and was like on the edges of falling apart. And so they've taken it apart, and they're in the process of rebinding this book. And as you're walking, you can see individual books at first just fall off the shelves. And as they hit the ground, the pages go flying out, and they look as though they'd been like touched by fire. The edges were burned. Another one falls off of the shelf, and it opens up with like a wet slap as these like waterlogged pages kind of like clatter to the ground and open up. And as you're watching, you can just kind of like see the image of this beautiful grand library that's been well tended and cared for, almost like fade to ruin in front of you, like you're watching the passage of time over centuries. And somehow you know that this is like a huge building that has several stories, and many of them, especially the ones that contain books, are really tall like this. And you can just sort of like feel the neglect. And it's like, it's saddening, and it like really motivates you to want to like restore it. And then you wake up. Nas, you're going to bed for the night, and you've been here like antsy the last couple of days. There's not been a lot of action. It was really good to spar with Wampum, and that was something that lifted your spirits. And having that sort of like time with Iskar was kind of like a little heartwarming. And so when you go to sleep, you dream of being like surrounded in an underground fighting ring, essentially. And you're like, you've got like a broken nose, and you can feel like the puffiness to one side of your face, and you can taste the iron of your blood on one side. And you're just like, you're on your like 4th round. They just keep throwing person after person up against you. Some lithe, some bulky, some like all various races. One was a tabaxi who raked you really good with some claws, and you know that like that's gonna scar. And you have that sort of like exhausted energy that comes from like prolonged fight, and it's so satisfying. Not only because you keep winning, but because you're like getting to let out all of this like aggression. You're getting to have the joyous like rage flow through you, and you know that there's betting going off in the corner, so you know that like Timora is present because there's somebody like running the bets, and like the odds on you keep getting lower and lower and lower to the point where it's like useless to bet on you completely, and you wake up about that time, and you're almost like, you don't wake up in like a cold sweat or anything, but that sort of like that feeling that you have when you've just started to like stretch before your workout, and you've maybe done like the warm-up run and you're not exactly sweating, but there's that like loose like athletic I don't know how to describe it.
A little bit of an exercise high.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like it's like the pre-runner's high. You kind of got that going on, and you wake up, and even though you've had like a really inactive couple of days, you feel really like satisfied by this like dream that you've had.
It was a nice dream.
Yeah. And Tazlin, you are entering in your trance state. What is your trance normally like for you?
So I've always thought that reveries are kind of like, I know R.A. Salvatore in his books is like Drizzt reliving as like a third party to his past experiences, kind of, where he's able to kind of like evaluate and like look back at on his centuries of life and be like, what could I have done differently? So I think Tazlin thinks back to like his younger, many centuries younger life, to specific events and just kind of indulge in the memory, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. So, so you're looking back inwardly as you're kind of like going over those earlier events in your life, and there's this memory that springs to mind of your time with Raziel. It was like shortly after you each had kind of like expressed your intent, your feelings for each other. You were still traveling with a group at the time, and you were in the middle, not the middle, but you were traveling on your way from a point to another point, and you were all taking camp in like the edges of a forest for the night. And everyone else was sort of like back at the camp, and you had gone for a long walk together. The sun was setting, the darkness was overtaking the land, which isn't an issue for either of you, of course, because you can see in the dark. But there was that sort of like pleasant, sort of like dusky twilight feel. And as you continued on the walk, the like night overtook you all, and everybody knew that you were all walking. So you were confident that no one was going to like come looking for you or worry about you, especially because you were together. And the memory of you both sort of like walking through these forests is really nice and placid, but then something about it changes a little bit, and this isn't something that you remember happening. It's almost like you're watching the two of you walk, and they go on as if nothing has changed as you're like viewing this video of your life, but you see that the two of you pass by this absolutely remarkable tree. Its bark is covered in the sort of like light moss that grows up the sides and the bottom. It's got a full canopy. There's like ivy that's twisted up and around it, and some growing, creeping plant that has like fern-like fronds. It's like a really beautiful tree, and you notice that there seems to be like a scar to the side of it. And as you're watching it, and you kind of like cinematically pan around as you would be watching the two of you like walk, like observing this scene, you notice that it seems like part of this tree has been like carved away almost, and as you look at it, you see this large section of bark that has been removed, and the wood of the tree itself looks like it has been hand carved into the shape of a woman. Her hair is made of leaves that sort of like cascade down and around her face. Her face is happy and smiling. She has a pointed nose and a wide smile. Her arms are up in the air, kind of like maybe she's dancing or something like that. They maybe are holding something. There's sort of like a round shape above it. and the carving goes down, like the smoothed wood that looks like it's been smoothed over centuries, goes down to the edges of the tree where this moss has started to grow over it, where it almost looks like she's cloaked in or like clothed in sort of like moss and foliage and fronds of these like creeping plants that are on the tree. And as you're watching this, and you don't remember this, and you're looking at it and you're thinking, did I not notice this was here and this is the first time I'm seeing it? If that's true, how could I even like have remembered it in this moment? And then it's almost like the face turns to look at you. This smoothed, like sanded almost, like not internal was the word I'm thinking of, like fresh wood face. And there are carved eyes individually, even with pupils that you can see sort of like fixate on you, and the smile widens a bit. And that's about the point where your like 4 hours ends, and you kind of like come out of this reverie for a moment.
Well, that's going to take a minute to process.
Mm-hmm.
I think Teslin's just going to fester on it for a little bit, like just kind of sit there and be like, what does it mean?
Like Jack Skellington.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So a couple of hours pass before everybody else wakes up. I'm assuming you were all intending on getting like an early start to the morning. So this is another sort of like 4 or 5 a.m. wake up call. You kind of like roll out of bed, scarf down some breakfast, and continue on your way. Is there anything you'd like to do before you leave?
Mage armor, water breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gonna let some of the. Oh man, I never know. Like, do the Skelly Boys just disappear when they runs out, or do they just go in, or are they just NPCs now? And they're just like
control of them, and they go crazy.
Oh, okay. So a good portion of them, like we'll say, because I don't want to waste a spell on them, and I don't want to waste a spell on a fireball. I'll have them just bludgeon it out, or no, better yet, all of you. Nos, do you want to like fight them, and I'll just have them be like living dummies? I really don't want to waste a spell on them.
We intend to reach our place today, right?
I suppose so, but they'd have to walk.
I'm not talking about them. We are reaching
yes.
where we're going today, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should, yeah.
Then I don't think I ought to waste my energy on them.
All right. All of you fight each other.
We're on a mountain. Just have them walk off it.
That's entirely fair. Walk off, all of you. Wait, no, you 5, give me the instruments back.
Okay. All right, that's fair. Mm-hmm.
Put those back in. All right, you 5 can go.
Hold on. Before they do that, I'd like to make sure that they die. If we're gonna do it anyway. GM question: about how long do we think it's going to take today? Like,
from peak to peak, it is 35 miles. Since you're not going to dip down into the valley, it's about like a 10-hour. Let me make sure that I'm doing that right.
Well, I mean, so I would have time while being on the carpet to take like a short rest, right?
Yeah. It's 10 hours of travel time.
Awesome. So Kill's going to walk over into the middle of the group of skeletons. And he's going to he'll take the drift globe and he'll hold the drift globe up, and he will channel divinity, turn undead on them. And if you're not going to roll saves for him, if you want to, I guess you can roll 10 saving throws, but if not, they're just going to turn into dust.
I'm just going to let them turn into dust, and I mean, they're not really skeletons, they're like
shadow things.
Shattered high souls?
Yeah.
They'll just go back home wherever they're from, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that they don't even get to make the roll if they're below a certain CR. It just automatically vaporizes them, right? Yeah, I think so. With clerics. I think you're probably, at level 15, it's like CR3 or below or something. They just like instantly explode, basically.
I'm over there like...
Well, it's when they fail, but yeah.
Oh, it is when they fail. Okay. I mean, if Taslin's not, I bet you're in control of them still. So if you tell them not to make their save, basically,
just let it happen. Just let it happen.
Yeah, like you've already told them to go like jump off the side of a cliff. So I feel like they're just kind of like.
Yeah, it's fair.
bone dust goes kind of like flying all around you before it settles into the ground.
There. So is Iskar still with Nos?
Yes.
Iskar had to spend the night outside, I believe.
but we're
Celestials are
outside
allowed
now.
in, though. Right?
But wait, what?
Celestials are allowed in the temple, and he was a
Oh.
celestial.
Then yeah, Iskar's been chilling with Nas unless you like Iskar is still yours. So if you were to ever to be like Iskar, then
No. It works out because that way I can cast touch spells on Nos if we fight.
Okay, yeah. If you would like Iskar to still be chilling with you, then Iskar is totally still chilling with you, Nas. In fact, when you woke up, they were kind of like curled up in a little ball, like kind of like on your chest for the warm sleeping, like a cat, kind of, but no claws, so no biscuits.
Cute.
Yeah. I think if there's anything special anyone wants to do in the morning, we can do that, and then I think it's time for a good time for a break. If not, non-claw biscuits. That's what we're all doing right now. Okay. We will see everyone in a few moments for more non-claw biscuits. So that roll variant. Wait, I almost said variant raid. Thanks for that. Oof. Starting off to a strong start. Thanks for that raid variant rules. That's what I meant to say. I'm so glad that I got it right the 8th time. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is Have Right Heroes. What did we left off when you were about to leave, right? Or everybody was just waking up. So everybody's woken up. Okay.
We'd woken up because I had to turn all the skeletons into nothingness.
Yes, that's what it was that happened. Yep. So, bone dust.
I collect some of it.
Okay.
Sure,
Yeah.
that's
Need that for a region.
There you go. Yeah. This is recycling. That's good for the planet. Okay. So you all get on your carpets and you're making a beeline, right? So you'll make it there in like roughly 10 hours. It'll be difficult to stop until you've bridged the gap and sort of like you're at least over land of the mountain. But you also don't need to necessarily make stops. What's your plan? What's your travel plan? How are you going to approach this?
Well, how are we going to stop, right? We're like super high in the air, so screw it. Let's just go.
All right. So you make a beeline for the top. You spend 10 hours traveling. Is there anything you would like to do during those 10 hours? You don't have to be doing anything. I'm just giving you the opportunity.
A barrel roll.
Right off. No.
Nas, make a dex save. Oof.
On the bright side, I did take fly today.
You did take fly. Well, that's probably a smart decision. No. Are you actually making a barrel roll?
Yeah, she said she wanted to be thrilled.
Okay.
I don't know if she could fly. She can make wings happen, so.
Oh, okay. If this is really happening, then I'll use a viewer inspiration.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and roll one more time. Also a 10.
I got 2 10s.
Got 2 10s.
Well, okay, so she can see it's happening, right? She's a barbarian, so she gets danger sense.
But I would already have advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like...
Well, you would have had advantage the first time then.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there we go. So it's technically an 18.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, is an 18. We'll call it an 18.
You want to go with 10?
I mean,
feel
if
like-
she falls, she's gonna have fly cast on her immediately because I can do that with this guy.
I've got
Doesn't
2
matter.
other ways to get back up there. It's
Yeah.
not a problem.
So here's what we'll say happens. Kale, I want you to make a deception check.
Sure, that's definitely my best stat, which I'm very...
Mm-hmm.
I rolled another 2.
Okay.
So that's like, it doesn't matter.
So you're thinking like, Nas said she wanted a thrill. And you kind of like glance over your shoulder, and Nas, it is plain as day to see that there is some kind of mischievous ass look on Kale's face. And the
I
minute you
enjoy
see
it.
that, yeah, you're like, okay, all right. And the carpet starts to turn. What do you grab onto? Do you grab onto Kale or the carpet?
Oh, probably Kale.
I'm taking you with me.
Yeah. So you flip upside down. You're at the front, so you've kind of got like your hands rested on the carpet, Kale. You start to flip it. You feel 2 very strong arms around you. and it starts to kind of like pull you off the edge, but you're like connected to the carpet, so you can complete the barrel roll as like your hands are like almost like slipping off the edge, and like the centripetal force kind of like throws like Nos way up in the air, and you kind of like lose connection for just a minute before like coming back down as the carpet almost starts to crumple up. But as soon as you make contact again, it like resumes its flying position. You both kind of like laid out a bit, land back on top of it.
I'm cackling and I'm just like, wee!
You all watched this happen, the other half of you.
I turn back. I say, we're not doing that.
That was so much
Yeah,
fun!
he better not, cat.
Yeah, Wampum is tied on, and he just like, when he sees you look over, you can see Wampum staring you, Lefcadio, with this look that's like, no. As he's holding on to the rope, also like laying there tied into it and holding on to it. Wampum looks particularly unhappy, Wampum has those like two shades of like super mirthful and like mischievous, and then also like I'm going to cut this thing in half. And he's definitely got the I'm going to cut this thing in half, but also if that thing were the dragon and he was by itself. Like there's like fear and anger going on right now, because everybody made the decision not to fly low over land. So you're way up in the air, and he's just angry. So whether or not you were planning on doing that, Lefcadio, you definitely get a death stare from Wampum. I feel like that is a safe assumption to make about John's character currently. So that happens. You got a little bit of an adrenaline rush. It feels good, Nos, especially after like you woke up from the dream and you had like the beginnings of that sort of like workout high, but didn't really like, it was like, it felt good, didn't like quite sate it. That was like a nice little like,
This
boost.
is how we should have been doing things this whole time.
Next time you're gonna fly, you're gonna drive, right? I'm
Heck
kidding.
yeah. Can't teach me.
Okay, so the first thing you need to know about the celestial language is it's really fucking hard. It's basically incomprehensible to mortal minds. And then he starts a lecture.
And that takes us the entire way there. He finishes up right as they land.
Yeah, I agree. Canon. So you're traveling through the air. You see the sort of like, whereas normally from a mountain there would be like icy peaks that are melting, and that turns into like the origins of like a river that feeds, or like a stream that feeds into a river sort of thing. This one seems to be coming from the ground. It's still elevated from the area around it, but as you're flying overhead, you can, especially when you turn upside down for a bit, you can really get a really good look at it. And it's like there must be some sort of like underground spring, or there's been some like tectonic activity that's shifted, and there's like a body of water that was somewhere that is now like leaking out here. That's what it looks like. There's no like snowy peaks on this end for this river to be coming from. You cross over that, you make it to where you're like overground on the other side. It's still really far away from you until sort of like the last couple of hours of your journey, where the mountain's like rising to meet you. You notice that like with the base of it is really rocky, but there's still a lot of like grass and foliage. It's still very like green and verdant looking. And as you are reaching the peak, even though like the air around you is colder and like slightly thinner, there's still like sort of like this waving grassland as it like sort of like rises to meet you as you're traveling. You can start to see little wildflowers. There's a lot of really bright looking yellow little flowers that are around. There's still like rocky outcroppings that have that are like poking out of like all this greenery, and there's like shrubs, and there are trees that are dotting up too. There is a tree line that is pretty far up, so the trees above that are pretty sparse and really kind of more of those like sagey like big bushes than trees really, but there are a couple that are towards the top, and there's several swashes of land that look like either it's all like these bright yellow wildflowers that you're passing overhead with a few like bits of white dotted in, or maybe like the grass a little bit more yellow there. And you're high enough now that like the clouds are making like obvious shadows as you're passing, and it's really like a pretty and beautiful sight as you're passing overhead. As you start to near the sort of like peak region, you can see that there's like a path almost, or it was a path. It's like mostly grown over, but you can see where on like the sides of what looks like is a more traveled area, there's like bigger, longer, more like flowing in the wind grass, whereas this looks more like it's been trodden so many times that the grass had been kind of like beat out of it, or maybe it was paved at one point and now it's been reclaimed. So there's like sparse bits where there are a few like cobblestones or what have you that look like intently placed, or there's like stretches that are still kind of like mostly earthen with a little bit of like grass poking through. But there's like, you can see that as you're like connecting the sort of like lines as you travel over the land, that there was some sort of like intentional path up here at some juncture. And you come to, on your way towards the top, what looks like it must have been some sort of like receiving station, sort of like outer greeting. What is it called when you have like, there's like a manor and then there's like that, not an outhouse, but there's like the place in the front where, gatehouse. Thank you. This looks like there was probably some sort of like, there's a word for it. There's some sort of like a gatehouse structure that existed here. You can see the base of it. It doesn't look like it was super big. There was like one cylindrical sort of like tower aspect portion to it, and then there was more of like a boxy lower portion. There's a little bit of the cylindrical wall left, and you can see the keystones, the base stones for the remainder of what was that cylindrical portion. There's like a bit that's missing where there probably was a doorway, and then there's like a half-ruined building. Simple gray stone, like of the color that you're seeing in these like outcroppings, so it's probably like stones that were cut out of the mountain themselves and like fashioned into this sort of like greeting sort of like gatehouse. There's not actually a gate there or anything like that, but there is some sort of a structure. And the reason why you think it might be some sort of like gatehouse is because in the distance you can see where there's still like bits of that trail that lead up towards like the peak of it, which has like a large section that is remarkably flat, almost as though it had been flattened, like there was some construction at some point. And you can see like ruins, basically. There are bits of stone where you can see like the debris where it's caved in. You can see where there are like various like bird nests where birds had like at some point like nested here and taken up residence for some time. There are some that are up here, like you can hear some like bird songs on the breeze, but you don't see any like a lot of activity. It looks like most of this is like super old, basically. Wampum, I think, has like advantage on stonework checks or something like that. So he'd be able to tell you that based on like the style of the building and the materials used, like there's some like mortar poking out that is still like crumbled and old, but it's like exposed, and he's able to kind of like pick it up and like crunch it and like look at it and like sniff at it a few times. And it's like an old formula that they used to use like maybe a couple hundred years ago. It's been improved upon since then. That's probably why that and neglect might be why this is so like dilapidated at this point. The structure looks like it was quite grand at some point, or maybe not grand, but like large, several tens of yards in each direction. You can see where there were like partitions as you get closer, where like there were walls that were built up, and some are still partially standing, but there's just like a whole lot of rubble in general, like reclamation of nature in the area. So what is your plan as you're approaching this sort of peak?
So there's all this stuff that I can obviously see. There's all these like little like details, all this stuff that you just listed, because why would you have listed it if we didn't make a perception check to find it first, if it wasn't obvious? So could I take all that information and like analyze it in my mind to use my investigative skills to determine if there are any signs of life in this area?
Sure, go for it. Yeah.
Can I assist?
Absolutely, yeah. I figure you guys are like, you're flying like side by side, so you're able to kind of so take it with advantage.
10 and a 10. So with my modifier, please hold, that's 25.
I love it. So you're taking in the scenery. You're noticing the little things about the scene around you. You know that when you were first trying to determine of any sort of like old shrine or what have you of Deneir, that these mountains came to mind and that this peak came to mind, and you couldn't really exactly like pinpoint why. It's like something that you like came across in a book at one point, and as you were kind of like, you've passed this like gatehouse looking structure, and you get this sort of first like look at this stone structure. You're starting to like feel like there's this idea in the back of your mind that's like itching at you, and like it's on the tip of your tongue, and you like, you know something about this and you can't think of it. And as Wampum's like talking about the, you know, like do you want to know before you get there, or would you all like kind of like stop and hop off as you're like looking around the area?
I imagine Wampum wouldn't want to like be shouting that stuff while we're up on the carpets, because I feel like he's very focused on staying on the carpet, not falling off, because he doesn't like flying.
Yeah, he wants to be on the carpet or on the ground, and the sooner he can get to the ground, the happier he will be. But I don't want to say that you like, if you want to stop further away and start making observations, then that's fine too.
No, if it looks pretty like a ruin, I imagine Kale would lead everybody in and just kind of land in the courtyard or whatever.
Okay, yeah. So there doesn't seem to be like an internal looking courtyard, but you can land like basically on like the outskirts of it, sort of thing. Like, and that's when he's like gone up and he's talking about how this is probably like centuries old. And it occurs to you that there was a grand library at some juncture in history that had been built by people who pledged their lives in service to Deneir. It was like Library of Alexandria would be like a real life equivalent of it. They endeavored to amass all of the world's knowledge here, as opposed to being like connected to a city and being in service and doing what they could within the city. They like trained people. They sent them out into the world to find information that they thought was unique and new, and like house as much of it as possible in this like remote location, so that they could preserve like the true history of the world, where it wouldn't be like changed by the passage of time. You know, like history is written by the victors. What is a true history? This is what the goal of this great library was supposed to be, was to preserve the actual true history of the world, as opposed to like based on the perceptions of each individual kingdom. And it had been lost. It was already very like secret within the faith, and being that you grew up as you did, not necessarily like in a specific like old temple, right? Because you were at like the fort, and that's where you like learned all this. You received it as a book. This was something that like was hinted at in that book that you had received, that there was like a hidden store of knowledge that was protected by Deneir and his followers, and there were like cryptic hints about in the you know, the temperate land of the sun, blah 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 blah. And so it was all so cryptic that it was really difficult for you to put together. But now that you're thinking about like, this is a mountain range that should have icy peaks and it doesn't, and it's like this sort of like out of the way place. There's nothing remarkable about this area. Like the moor is nearby. There's an abandoned city nearby. There's not a whole lot of like activity here. What activity has been in this region in the past has been really tumultuous. So it seems like a good place to kind of like hide in plain sight. And so this structure on the surface wasn't like particularly tall. It was very large, but it's not like a spire at the top of a mountain that would encourage people to come and check out what it is. It looked like nondescript, just like these ruins do. Like you don't see any like ruined symbols of Deneir, any tributes. You don't see anything that would have given you any hint as to what it was. And so it, like, this idea comes to you that there are so many clues that point towards this. You don't have like verification of that yet, but it's like, this is the idea that's been itching at you, and you're like, maybe I can prove this.
Okay. Couldn't remember where the Temple Deneir was. This is just a tribute. Yeah, I guess Kale would share some of that, or I guess at first he would just kind of look around and be thinking about all this stuff, and fucking what's his face, the dwarf, whatever his stupid name is.
Well,
He's just kind of gabbing about how this is centuries old, and
yeah, he's talking about the mortar is an old formula that's not used anymore, and Taslin's making observations about the general area and talking about how the stone looks normal because it's the same color, and it doesn't look like any of these were very tall because the rubble doesn't look like there's enough stone for any one area to be he's making comments as you're all kind of talking back and forth and making observations. While this is going on, what are you doing, Nas and Lafcadia?
We're not on the carpets anymore.
You could still be if you wanted to take control of yourself.
Nah. Oh,
Okay.
Stick with my crew. Okay. Yeah.
Rolling up my carpet.
Okay.
I'll just be looking around for signs of life, footsteps, anything.
Okay. Do you want to do a survival check to kind of scope out the area for tracks, or just a general more a perception check?
Both of them, I'm pretty sure. 0. Doesn't
Okay.
matter. We'll go for survival to see signs of life and how long ago and all those tracky things. And I will use a viewer inspiration.
Hey.
19.
Ooh, 19. Nice. So, you start looking around for signs of life, for tracks of anything, really. See if there's been any activity up here.
If there's any blood, I taste it.
Okay. So you start kind of wandering around the general area where they're at, looking at the ground, looking at the ruins themselves, looking in the shrubs in the region, or in the area. And it does look to be there was an area before that seemed to have been cultivated. It's kind of around the side of this front. You're not straying terribly far from them, obviously, but you kind of look around the corner and you see it looks like if you've ever seen an old personal garden plot that has been untended, the grass has grown back over, but there is a square barrier essentially, where there's raised earth, and there are a few trees around it. There's an apple tree, so there are actually apples on the tree. There's several around the ground of it, and you don't necessarily see any footprints. There don't even seem to be a whole lot of even animal tracks up here. You do notice a few more of the abandoned bird nests. You see often the distance. What are a late season bird, blue jays? I feel I always see when it's still cold. So you see a family of blue jays that are roosted in one of the crags of the ruin up here. And it's fairly windy up here, but not terribly so. And as you're rounding the corner and you see those blue jays off in the distance, and you see this apple tree, and you're noticing the ground around the apple tree, you see hoof prints, not just hooves sitting there, the prints of hooves, and you're able to kind of they seem to have circled the tree several times, or at least moved about the tree several times, and kind of made their way over towards this garden plot where you can now see that there must have been some carrots that had been coming back year after year kind of thing, where they would just maybe die and then reseed. I think that roots usually to do that. I don't know, maybe that's not true, but there's something that's been pulled out of the ground, and has been something was yanked out, so there's the disturbed earth, and you can see the green top of a tuft of something that had been munched on, and you can see the hoof prints kind of go around towards the back, and they also come around towards the front, around where you're at, and then you see them make a wide berth around the front, maybe based on the direction they're coming from. They probably came up from that direction,
Okay.
Seeing the tree maybe, and kind of ate some apples or something.
I will walk up to one of the apples and pick it up and munch on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Look around and well, place looks pretty much abandoned, but we do have one visitor. The prints look like they're about the size of a goat, a horse, an ox.
Like a pony.
Horse-sized.
Yeah. Not a huge horse, but this is a 22 hand Clydesdale or anything, but a pony.
Could be just an animal. Could be satyr. Could be centaur.
They're gala apples, by the way.
Oh.
Good
Delicious.
apples. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So you're having this conversation and kind of telling them about like what you're thinking of, whatever bits of it that you would like to share, Kale, and you all hear Nos kind of like from around the corner saying this.
Kale's kind of distracted. He wants to just go inside. Yeah, I heard that, but that's outside stuff. We need to check these. These are the vaults of lost knowledge, or
Okay.
whatever the
I'll
name
come back
is.
over. Hand him an apple.
Yeah. If you want to bring back like an armful of apples for everyone, you totally could. One bum takes 2 in
Kale
one hand.
shoves it in his bag of holding without even it's like he doesn't even know he's doing it as he's walking towards the building part where there's a building.
Just for a second, thank you, Servo, for the 50 bits. And I would have given you 100, but you're the half-rate heroes. That was funny, and I felt like saying it, so thank you for that. So as you make your way through, assuming no one's like trying to talk Kale out of this like beeline he's kind of making.
Yeah, Tazin will follow him. I'm going to use my ring of invisibility, go invisible, and just follow invisibly behind him, maybe like 20 feet behind.
Okay. Tazlin whoops invisible.
Do you want me to make a stealth check?
Are you trying to be stealthy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would do it with advantage, I guess.
Gala apples are native to New Zealand. Apple
That's
packs.
good. I like that. 8.
Yeah.
So it's really, really, really grassy here. There aren't any trees. There's not like twigs for you to like step on to make noise, but the grass is so tall that while you're invisible and something like far away definitely wouldn't like necessarily notice your approach, everyone like behind you can see each footprint pushing down the grass.
Can I
as
pitch
you go.
something? I think Tazlin's eating the apple as he's walking. So you just hear like crunch and you see this apple just floating.
Or like because you were holding it, it's invisible, but everybody can hear the crunch, and then when you finish it, the core disappears out of nowhere and gets like tossed on the ground. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I dig it. So, so you're as you're making your way through, and you're kind of like picking your way through these ruins, Kayla and everyone, you can see this was definitely sectioned off into several distinct rooms. The front is pretty large, looks like sort of like a receiving sort of area, maybe, as would be typical of any type of structure. As you pass through what probably was either an archway or a set of doors that is like long since just like decayed and is like missing. Maybe it's been pilfered, who knows. There is like a hallway that has a couple of rooms on either side. They're like big rooms, and the way they're constructed, sort of like long and like narrow-ish. It looks like storage or like barracks or something along those lines. And there's like this main hallway that feeds out into like a large open space. And as you're kind of like traversing through this like large open, maybe courtyard, maybe room, probably room because the walls are pretty tall. And there's like rubble all around where maybe like the roof collapsed in kind of thing. And you do see a few like sticking out of bits of rubble, probably like support wooden beams that are super decayed and decrepit, but because they were mostly covered by these rocks, are like preserved enough from the elements that you can like see bits of them that are still there. You see like what probably was a set of support structures that have like crumbled and have all these like rock bits around. And as you like go around the side of that to continue moving on, there are like what were stairs, like maybe leading down to like a basement. The earth, like with rains and stuff, have like washed dirt down over it, and grass and like moss and like lichen have grown down over it, where it's obviously very like moist. Sorry for using that word in this area. So under that, maybe stone. But there's, for the like foreseeable parts that you can see, although there's a bit of like stone peeking out, like as you're looking down in, it looks like the sort of like foliage and such has started to like make its way down there. But there's a point where it stops because there's not like light filtering in.
Can people still fit down there? It sounds like stuff you could walk through.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like it stairs down to like a basement or something like that. It's just that like instead of seeing a stone staircase, what you see are you see the foliage that's grown over the like dirt that's been washed down there over time. It just looks
kind of like it's like a hillside almost, but it's underground.
Yeah, I guess kind of like as you like see it, it looks at first just like kind of like a grassy way down in. But as you like round the corner and you look down in, you see like the point where the light can't touch anymore. That's where there's like stonework down there. So it kind of does start to look like there's still a bit of like that staircase like shape to it at the top, but it is more of like just like a decline until you like take a look inside and you're able to see the stonework.
Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you what, he's looking for an altar, basically.
Okay.
So he would imagine it's probably at like the heart of this place, so he would go down underground to look for it because there's probably stuff there that's altar related.
Okay. Does everyone have dark vision?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So
he'll light up the drift globe too.
Okay. So there's you head down into this, and after you pass over the sort of like moss and grass and dirt covered portions of the stone, you start to see what looks like marble columns along the wall, and the stonework fades away into like fine, is it like limestone that is the other light colored stone? It's really nice looking. I looked up rocks too, and I had that tab up last time and I forgot to write down what type it was. But there's like the sort of like rough looking appearance fades away, and it starts to look more like what you would expect from like a minor lord's house. There are fine columns to the side. They are like elegant looking. There are carvings along them that have, like, it starts off with like a swirling ivy, but interspersed are like quills, where it's like there's a bird you think, but it's actually like a quill, and there's like a book and things like that. And along the wall were probably paintings at some point. The colors have so long faded that it's difficult to discern anything other than it seems to have been like probably a historical depiction of something. There's just enough of like the dark hues that have lasted left that you can tell that there probably like were faces interspersed throughout this big mural. And it opens up into essentially like a room at the bottom that has a staircase that goes up on the other side, but that has collapsed in on itself. And you can tell that whatever that rubble was that you had been seeing, and there was like almost like a dip that the like ground itself kind of like collapsed in, and so that side of the stairwell was blocked off. There are more columns at the bottom. These look sturdier, like they're support beams, but they're still made out of this like fine light-colored stone. There's a door behind you that comes up. It's like an archway, actually. It curves at the top, and then there's another curve at the top like this. And all you can see inside are essentially more of this like light stone tiles on the floor and a wall at the far end.
Okay. I proceed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're all making your way through. You pass through this archway, and it opens up into almost like a balcony. There's like 30 yards or so before you get to that point where this has like tattered bits of what probably were a carpet at some juncture. There are a few what probably were archways along the walls, and since like the inside looks like it has caved in, so this particular structure has survived, but whatever were through these archways before have been like blocked by like rock and dirt and rubble and stuff like that. As you travel down and you get to like sort of the edge of this, and there's this like long ovular like outcropping almost, the sides bend down into more staircases, and if you look over the edge, you see that from some direction, somewhere else in this mountain, somebody has fixed a like a skylight sort of thing, where the sunlight is beaming in the fading sunlight, because it took you 10 hours to get here, so it is like evening time, but that is beaming in over what looks like about 6 stories. At the bottom, you see a beautiful crystal clear pool of water that, while the sides do have kind of like greenery around them, which from this far away you imagine to be like moss and like what would grow on the edge of like a pond. There's like stairs that go down into it, like maybe this was like a bathing area or something along those lines. And you just see, like I said, 6 stories or so of like grand like walkways with archways leading into different rooms. Some of them have like ruined draperies or something that are like pulled to the side, interspersed with the sort of like light stone that you see. There's like wood and tile work that gives like a really graceful sort of like Grecian sort of like style to it, if that makes sense, like almost like terracotta and wood and white stone. And it's very like well lit from whichever like portion of the mountain somebody has fixed this place for the light to stream in. It's obviously like coinciding with the setting sun so that it can be well lit. And it's just like this massive underground structure that has multiple seemingly like pathways into it. And one thing you can see at the bottom is at the edge of the pool and those stairs go up, there is sort of like a grand looking dome that might have been, it's metallic, maybe gold, maybe not, with similarly like elegantly carved smooth pillars on the outside with archways in between them. Nothing, again, has any sort of like symbol that's recognizable, and you don't see anything that looks like an altar, but it looks like this structure is massive, and it would take some time to like look through it and try to find something like that.
Before we proceed, Kel would thaumaturgy it up, and he would say, "Hello."
Okay. You shout into not a void, but a cavernous sort of area, and hello rings and rings and rings. It echoes back and forth as the sound reverberates off the walls and the waves bounce around. No one seems to be responding.
Okay. So you said there's a bunch of different directions we could go right now.
There are 2 staircases that lead down and around to like a second floor, where you can, from your position, you can see that the there. It's almost like there's a walkway that has some structure to it, where there are like almost windows that are built in. It's like open air, so there's no like glass or no panes, but there's walls that have the sort of like teardroppy comes down to a square looking windows in it. And then there are like more open, so like directly across you can see large open spaces where if people were walking there'd be points where you wouldn't be able to see them, but most of it is pretty open. So these staircases lead down into these hallways that aren't like completely shielded from view, but isn't just like a completely open area. And you can, just like from standing where you all can like take a look around, and you can see that there are additional sort of like archways that go down each of these hallways. So there are like several points of direction. You don't see another way further down from here, but you can't see everything in the scope of this, because it is about maybe like 20 or 30 yards deep. So like 80, 100-ish feet across, maybe, something like that. Is that another gift sub from Superman, Zach?
Yep, he's back with the bomb of 5 more subs.
Oh my gosh.
36 total.
That's a lot really fast.
You're a very generous person.
I'm gonna go to the right.
What's that? I'm sorry, I talked over you.
It's okay. I think Taslin's gonna go towards the right staircase.
Okay.
He's invisible.
What's like the most, I guess, well lit area?
So the way that this like evening light is streaming in, it looks like this was constructed with the intent of using the natural light to illuminate the entire area. So it's all equally well lit during the first couple of floors, and towards the bottom it's a little bit dimmer as the light isn't like quite as strong as it's like reflecting and trying to like reach down. But there are like surfaces that seem to have been like painted almost with the intent to like, it's not like there are mirrors set up or anything like that, but there is like a particularly reflective paint in a few different places, or some sort of like substance on the walls, whereas the light kind of streams in, it's like focusing it back down through. So there's not any like, the below levels are a little bit more dim right now, and you know that as the natural light fades, you'll be left with the light of your drift globe. But there's not like a more light, like both paths are equally lit.
Okay. Kale will stop, and he'll sit down, and he'll open his notebook that Nos gave him because he doesn't have the tome of Deneir here. But he'll open that, and then he'll get out a little thing that holds incense in it, and he'll say, give me 10 minutes, 11 minutes, whatever. Give me a minute. I'm going to ask what we're supposed to do. And he will cast a divination spell as a ritual.
Okay. Remind me again, just pop it into chat, what divination does?
Cast on VTT. I have posted it.
Okay. Your magic, an offering, put you in contact with a god or god's servant. You ask a single question concerning a specific goal, event, or activity to occur within 7 days. GM offers a truthful reply, might be short, cryptic, an omen, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what is your question?
What would you have me do? Here.
A voice replies, and you have spoken directly to Deneir, like, audibly before, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As opposed to, like, getting impressions or what have you. And you hear almost like a whispery version of a voice that sounds like Deneir. And it says, seek knowledge. Pursue it. Treasure it. Restore it. Preserve it.
Seek knowledge. Restore it. And preserve it. All right. I think he gets up, he wheels around, and he closes the book. So I think I need to go to wherever there is knowledge that I don't already have. So we need to find like the most secret part of this place.
We need to find.
Did you say that out loud to everyone? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We need to find the secret place of the secret temple.
We need to. I'm going to go as deep as I can until I reach a dead end and see if there's any forgotten lore or anything like that.
So down?
That's it. I'm going to continue to go down, yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Well, we might as well.
What the fuck?
So do you take the left or the right path?
I'll throw some bones. I guess
I'm already on the right path.
Yeah,
that's
true. Taslin is already.
I don't give a shit what he's doing. I can't see him. I cast augury. It only takes a minute because I'm not gonna do it as a ritual this time.
Okay.
So I'm gonna throw some bones and see what would be the result of going down the left path. Is it wheel,
And the
woe,
answers are
wheel, woe,
yeah.
wheel, and woe, or nothing. And wheel's good and woe is bad.
yeah. Neutral. There wasn't a word for neutral, right? Not wheel, not woe.
There's nothing. Yeah.
Nothing.
It's just I get nothing. I get nothing out of the left path. I go down the right path.
Okay. Taslin's already like 20, 30 feet ahead of everyone. Not that you know that because you can't see him. Although
could if I wanted to.
But I can see them.
Yeah, you can see them. Yeah. With the stealth check you made earlier, although you could roll again if you'd want to. You probably hear his footsteps or something.
I'm used to the idea of Taslin just going off and doing Taslin things by himself.
Okay.
I was gonna say if he needs help, we'll give it to him. When he inevitably fucks up and needs help, we'll just come to his rescue like we always do.
Okay.
Yeah, Taslin will go back to the group.
Okay.
He sees they're not following, and he'll be like, oh.
Yeah. You started to head down. You heard Kale doing something. You kind of like stopped and waited for a minute. And about the time you start to like head back, you see them kind of like making their way down the stairs.
Yeah.
So the initial stairs that you descended, you feel like you probably went down about like 20-ish feet from like the edge of the ground. You descend about another like 15, 20-ish feet down these stairs, equally cut of the same sort of like light colored stone, and you enter into these like hallways that you can see from across, where there's like portions of it that are blocked off in our walls, and then as you pass by each window, you can kind of see now from this level out and across to the other side of the stairs, and that's on your left. On your right, you see there are two. Across the span of about like 80 feet or so, there are two big archways again that come up and have that sort of like slime sort of shape to it, old school Final Fantasy slime shape to it at the top. What is the culture that I'm thinking of? I think it's like Turkish that have the like. Anyway.
Oh, it's like yeah. I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Okay, so that's what the tops of like the archways look like, and as you pass by, it's easy to see unless you stop ahead of any of these doors. Which let me know if you do. But as you're continuing on, you don't hear a whole lot going on in here. There's like the faint trickle of like water splashes, like maybe there's like something dripping into the water source at the bottom. And other than that sort of like super faint echo of that, this is pretty quiet other than your footsteps. So as you come to breach the sort of like edge of the door and glance in, what you can see inside is basically a long hallway that seems to span the entire side of this portion of the wall that has like cubbies or bookshelves or something built into the side of it. They're huge, massive, maybe 30, 40 feet tall. And all you can see are like ruined bits of like old wood that probably were like tables and chairs at some point. There's like 3 of them or so that still look like together enough that you can tell what they were. And then there's just like debris scattered all about and like old decaying bits of matter that were tables, chairs, cloth, something like that, along with these like bookshelves. Several of them are like wooden in construction, and so those are similarly like waterlogged. They're like bloated in some cases. One has like crumbled, and you can see several of like the shelves have fallen in on each other and are just like in a heap at the bottom. A few of them are made of stone, and those seem to be still like upright and in the proper places. There are like scattered debris of books about. There's like what probably were pages that had been like fallen out or something that are just like matted into wet clumps and laying next to like open bits of book. That's what you can kind of glance from the outside.
Okay. I mean, I guess I like to head toward, not ruined stuff. See if there's anything like a container of any kind at the end of this long hallway or anything.
I'll pull out my wand of secrets and use a charge on it.
Okay, and that detects the closest trap door or hidden door within like 30 feet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You use a charge of your wand of secrets. At least
It
in this
also reveals
60
traps. Yeah.
Okay. At least in this 60-foot zone, there do not appear to be any secrets or traps.
Okay.
So if you just continue on your way, then as you pass by the other door, you will see like the other side of this. It's like the same scene, and you can tell now that there's not like a partition. It seems like through that is just an entire room dedicated to what was probably like some kind of library at some point. You curve around the back. Across the way, you can see 2 doors similarly as you pass by these like open spaces where you're able to take in the view. So it's structured similarly. You could assume that's probably about the same. The room might have been intended for something else, but the structure is at least similar on the other side. As you come around to the back, there are a couple more like archways that are ruined and seem to have been like collapsed in on themselves. But there is one central one towards like the middle space where there's like the open big arches that you could see from the balcony, and back set into that is another like sort of like larger archway that you'll be able to walk through.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you're on the corner and you make your way back there, you open up into what is this? What are they doing?
I didn't
Sorry.
hear that one.
Okay, it sounded like somebody was like drilling into the roof, or I don't know what's happening.
I think
Anyway,
someone's setting up spy cameras in your apartment or something. Like,
they're going to find out that I live a pretty unremarkable life and I play a lot of D&D. So kudos to them. I hope that I can make some money off of the videos or something. It's another sort of like this is not nearly as big as the rooms that you saw, the room that you saw on the side. This is more of like intended to just be a hallway, and it has similar staircases heading down on either side. Left or right?
I always go right.
You hear light footsteps heading down the path on the right.
yeah, I'm gonna go left.
Okay. So these staircases are much longer. You travel down these for probably like 3 stories or so, maybe a little bit longer, as opposed to the sort of like 2 sets of shorter ones that you encountered before. And as you head down the left side, you round a corner and you're faced with the collapsed wall.
I would like to. It's just a collapsed wall. Like there's just nothing.
Like it looks like this probably was another hallway big room or something, and you can see the walls that are like carved on your side, and then it's just like there's bits of like stone, there are individual blocks, there's like dirt, stuff like that.
I can fuck this whole thing up right now. I prepared earthquake today.
And bury yourself alive.
Yeah, I'd rather die than find out that Tasman picked the right path when I picked the wrong.
Well, they're 2 different directions, right? They're not the same direction. Wampum, can you tell if there's anything beyond this? Like if the rest of it's also collapsed down the hall? He's got the dwarven.
Yeah, the
bits.
stone stuff.
Yeah.
Stone sense or whatever. He like thinks about it for a second, and he kind of like looks up, looks at the thing, looks around. He's like, everything else seems to kind of be a structure built around this open place in the middle, so this probably meets up just like the other floors have. So either path would have worked, and this one just happens to be blocked.
Probably faster to just go the other way than to clear this one out, unless we have some sort of. Unless somebody had the foresight to prepare the stone shape spell. But I did not, so let's turn around.
Yeah. Plus, it's dangerous to try to clear something like this out with just the 5 of us. We might move something that's too load-bearing and cause an additional collapse. So.
Well, I would trust you, a true and full-blooded dwarf, to be able to let us know when that sort of thing would be about to happen and stop us.
That's fair.
But screw it.
He's
Let's
like, pour some more ale or something. So, so you head back up. Taslin, how far do you go before you stop and wait for them, or like, what do you do?
I guess it depends on what I'm seeing. Like, do the stairs go down 3 floors and then there's like another opening like the previous one? I'll go all the way down as long as I don't see any other creatures. If there's other creatures, then I might stop and pause. So, do you need me to make a perception check or something?
So there's nothing to look at as you're heading down the stairs. It is just kind of like a straight line down. You have to go down the several stories. And as you reach the bottom, the wall like squares off, and you can kind of like peek around the corner, and you see another like similar hallway, but instead of the other one where it was almost like you were in a smaller area and you passed through an archway and there was a larger area, it's like this portion of the building is the entire like 3-ish, maybe 4 stories. It's just like a massive hallway. There are several doors on either side. There's a lot of ruined cloth, a little bit less like worn away, but super dampened. And so it's like really, really, really old, maybe like tapestries that have fallen onto the ground and are just like piles of wet, gross, like decayed cloth. You hear a light, like clattering sound, like maybe like a stone falling on another stone or something like that, kind of like echo. And it kind of like fades away, but you don't see anything.
Okay. I keep moving forward. Maybe I'll wait.
Okay.
I'll move into the hallway and see that there's so many doors, and at this point, Tazlin is sick of doors and sick of paths, and he'll find a comfortable rock and sit on it until everyone shows up.
Okay. Yeah, this portion isn't collapsed or anything. Like I was Irish for a second there. But you can just like sit on the edges of the steps. And wait for everyone to, which they do after a few moments. You can kind of like hear their voices off in the far end. It's so echoey that it's hard to pick out exactly what they're saying. It's almost like ghost-like, with the sort of like multiple voices kind of stacking and echoing. But you hear something about like a block, or like they can't get through or something maybe, and then you hear the footsteps of people traveling back, and eventually you can kind of like see them cresting over the top and coming back your way.
Okay. Once they get within maybe like 40 feet of me, I'll start moving again.
Okay.
How, like, I guess I'd be counting how many doors are on like the left or the right.
Okay, the right opens up similarly to that sort of like middle zone that you've seen before. But yeah, I talk with my hands a lot, I'm sorry. This one has more columns than windows, so it's much more open-aired on this particular level. There are a couple of portions that have walls, and instead of having like several little window archway things, there's like one big one and then columns after a couple of like blocked off areas. So as you're passing by the doors on the left, which you see before everyone else, and as everyone else like catches up, they're able to see this too. You vaguely hear like footsteps ahead of you, so it's like pretty easy to assume that Tazlin's like up there somewhere. You pass by what here looks like there are collapsed wooden structures that likely were like bunks of some kind. Just based on like the length and the shape of some of them. This room is not, it's very tall, the one that you're passing by to the left, or the several rooms I should say. These do have like walls between them. So you pass by several rooms that seem to, like if you were to take, well actually I should ask, is anyone going to go in and like take the time to look at them, or are you just going to walk by and kind of like take a glance inside?
Okay, so we'll go that direction.
You're muted, Tazlin. You'll go that direction?
Yeah. I think Tazlin would like inspect the rooms because he's waiting for the people to catch up.
Okay. And you want to go inside too, Kale?
Well, so like as soon as we get over there and we see what we see, Kale's gonna get a little bit of goop. So he's got like a can of goop out of his bag, and it's goop made out of like mushrooms. A long time ago, we went to a guy in Neverwinter in a back alley, and Kale was like, "Hey, I want some mushrooms that'll let me like see God and stuff." And he uses that. See, he uses it to make like a salve that he puts on his eyeballs so that he can cast True Sight. And he's going to do that right now so he can see God and stuff.
Okay.
When you do that, you'll also see that Superman Isaac has also dropped another 10 sub gifts in chat. Thank you again, Superman.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you, Superman. And also, Carl, that was seamless.
Perfect. Absolutely. Chef's kiss. True Sight is basically like, I can see the ethereal plane, I can see invisible stuff.
There you go. You're right. Yeah.
Okay. That's basically the like.
And I can see secret doors hidden by magic.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
It goes out to 120 feet.
Okay. So you cast that, and you see like the tail end of like Tazlin's robe kind of like going into one of the rooms. And Taslin, you go in and you're able to, after taking a second to look around, there's just enough of like one of the bunks to be able to tell that by like the size of one of these like wooden columns that's kind of like on the ground and the shape of this bit, like one of these was like a bunk bed type structure. So if you kind of like take time to like look at the rubble and like count pieces, it's like this one room could have housed, because there's several of these, this one room could have housed easily like 15 to 20 people, something like that. So very like functional housing like solution for a place that had like a lot of people in it at some point. Nothing looks like overly adorned or personalized. It all looked like it probably was well made, but there's not like grand armoires as well, anything like that.
Yeah. So once Taslin kind of notices that, he's going to leave, just ruling out that there's anything valuable that he can pilfer. So.
Okay, make an investigation check.
Okay, my passive investigation is a 20.
All right, okay.
But let me roll that investigation. Yeah, 15, so I'll go with the 20.
Yeah. So you take, like, obviously, like, you're a very analytical individual, and it will probably be difficult for a lot of people to be able to tell what the, like, ruins of all this, like, organic matter was intended for, but because you're able to, you have this, like, keen eye and, like, discerning intellectual nature, you can, like, figure this. As you're taking a look around, because this looks so, like, bare bones housing solution, it's easy to see why you don't really like notice anything that looks like it's of value. It looks like this was very much here's a place to sleep. If there was anything of value at some point, it's either gone, been taken, something like that. But any other sort of like storage solutions that might have been in this room might have just contributed to the general like mess that's on the ground. But there's nothing like seemingly of value other than that. And like Kale, you're like, even with the doorway, and you can see Taslin kind of like poking around in there.
Okay. And there's nothing. It's just a fucking room.
Kale, I've been in so many temples in my times, but this has to be the most boring one I've ever been in.
Okay. Super insulting, first off. Second off, go fuck yourself, and Kale's gonna walk away.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, not to like belabor it or anything, you're able to like continue throughout this. You can see where it would have gone around, it would have connected on the other side, and you can see the collapsed portion. That's like an entire wall fell in on the other side, and you're surprised that like it's like the entire side of that, the entire like other side of that structure didn't fall in. Obviously, there was really good craftsmanship that went into this place, and like after years and years of neglect, of course, and like not being watched by eyes, things will start to deteriorate. But it's luckily just like blocked off that hallway for the most part. As you make your way around the back, you see like another similar sort of like hallway thing through like an archway that opens up and can go down. Because there is like a window sort of like large viewing portion from here, you can see that there are two more layers to this place, but the stairs go down about like 2 stories. There's a landing and some entrances, and then it goes down another 2 stories. You would have the option to stop on the 4th floor or continue on to the 5th floor.
I'm going to the bottom.
Okay. So you make your way down. You see, as you're traveling, you kind of like pass through one of the archways to that like, landing, and you can see where a portion of the floor has like collapsed in. You continue down to the 5th floor, and you can see where that rubble has come through on, well, I guess I should say which side you go down, left or right?
Left.
Okay, good. Yes, collapsed on that side. The left side seems to have taken more damage over time. For whatever reason, tectonic activity, what have you. Maybe that's where like water leaked in, who knows. So the portion of the floor collapsed down into the 5th floor. And you're able to kind of like walk out into what looks like this was like another layer that was intended to house knowledge. On one side, you can definitely see that there's another sort of like large library, sort of like looking, it looks like the 2nd floor did. Across the way, instead of there being a wall, like behind the windowed sort of like partition that you can see through, there's just a big open space. It doesn't look like it's been collapsed. And just from being like 60 or so feet away, especially because you have true sight up to 120 feet, you can see over there easily that there are like maybe weapon racks on the walls, or and that there seems to be like a few like partitioned off areas that have like different flooring or something, or maybe there's just like something that's like rotted on the floor, who knows. But like best guess, given that there's like several like racks along the walls, that might have been like a training area of some kind. Like, you know, if they were sending people out into the world to gather knowledge and record history, then it's entirely possible that some of them were like able to defend themselves, and that there would be training that went on. You know, that's the like general assumption. So you come to another sort of like stairway structure. This one only goes down about 20 feet. It will lead you to the bottom floor. As you all, Tazlin, are you staying ahead of the group?
No, Tazlin will go up to Kale and he'll probably try to speak to Kale.
Okay.
Now, Kale, I apologize. I probably phrased that wrong. It's just that everything is rotten here. It looks like it hasn't been well kept and is well deserted. Wouldn't most of the knowledge in the books here also be rotted as well?
Yes, and for the record, you're still being just incredibly insensitive and rude. I understand that you're from a different, place. You've been here a while, though, right? Don't talk shit about the temple of my god, like, just at all. If you can help it. I understand. If you have something actually interesting to contribute, please. I know you're a reasonably intelligent person, and you at times have helpful things to contribute to conversations. But if all you're going to do is talk about how decrepit and awful this place is, don't.
Well, I was simply hoping for you to divulge any information you know about this place.
I don't know anything else beyond what we've seen.
Fair.
And what I told you before we came down.
Right.
Of course, I don't know whether or not you were listening, but that's more on you than it is on me.
That's fair. I'll keep my commentary to myself.
As long as it's not just insulting or cosmetic necessarily, if it's something that you think might actually be helpful, and I'll leave it for you to judge. Good. Yeah, just share things that you think will be helpful, and keep the bullshit to yourself.
Fair.
Appreciate that. And then I continue because Kale's kind of in a hurry right now because the true sight only lasts an hour, and it costs a 6-level spell slot and 25 gold, which that's the least important part, but.
So are we moving at like a rapid pace?
I don't know because Katie's muted.
Yeah, I was muted, wasn't I? Haha. You're moving at whatever pace you would all like to move at. If Kale's in a hurry, Kale's moving at a rapid pace. The rest is kind of like up to the rest of you. So, but one thing, as you like pass through this archway, probably while you're still like finishing up your response to Tazlin, and you look down and you see these staircases down to what, as far as you could tell before, was the last floor where this like pool of water was. You can see, standing at the bottom of the stairs on the left side, what almost looks like the figure of like a horse, but it's got like something on its head. You like a unicorn? As it's like making its way, but you can see it, and you notice this because of your true sight, because it's in the ethereal plane. That's why you can't hear it.
Okay,
you can just see it.
Nobody else can see it.
Nobody else can see it.
Or hear it or anything like that.
No one can hear it. You can't hear it either, but you can see it. You see it's like not running, but it like quickly moves, and you're able to just like catch the figure of it as it like disappears around the corner.
I'm following that horse. Did I just unplug my headphones? I didn't.
No. So He says this to you, Tazlet, and then Kale, like...
Just unfollowing that horse.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't say that out loud. I'm sorry.
He just, like, turns and looks and, like, walks with purpose.
Yeah.
More so than you'd even all seen him move with before. Like, maybe he saw something or he's just in a hurry.
Right behind him.
Okay.
Right behind her.
Mm-hmm.
Right behind him.
Gotcha. And Wampum's at the back.
Yeah, he's
Being very quiet. Yeah. So you make your way down around the left side, and it opens up. It's unclear what the intent of this room was for, as opposed to every other, or this like portion. It's unclear because there's not as much rubble here. There are a few like stones that seem to have fallen. Maybe when some of the upper levels collapsed, it like sent some kind of like careening down this way. So there's a bit of like rubble generally on the floor. But the stairs feed down into several large archways. This room is actually only about 40 feet instead of the like 80-ish feet. It only goes like halfway of what you would expect it to based on the upper floors. And there's a wall there, though, not like a collapse or anything. You're looking out. You can see this crystal clear pool. It starts at the edge of this structure, and the bottom is clearly made from the stone. This was intentionally built. It's not like there's an earthen bottom or anything like that, but it feeds out under like the edge of the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's water that seems to continue on, but there's like a wall that comes down here, so you don't know what like might be down there. Across from here you see several like windows. But there's only one small archway to the side. Everything is covered in hanging mosses and lichen and the sort of like underground cavey type of foliage that like colonizes like a damp area. The water still looks relatively like clean and pure. It doesn't have a lot of like dirt in it or anything. There's no fish in it. But there is that sort of like mossy stuff growing around the outside. There are about 4 steps that lead up to a platform that you can see another archway to in the back. And these are the sort of like grand columns, and you see this large dome. It's probably like 10 feet in diameter. And you're closer to it now, and maybe it's like gold that hasn't withstood the test of time very well, or maybe it's like brass or something like that. But it's definitely sort of like a goldenish, orangey brown hue.
Okay, I cast Fire Strike on the gold to melt it because we need more gold. No, I'm just gonna keep following that horse, man. Did you say did the horse go like through the wall where the water was going, or?
It passed into here, and it takes you just a few seconds to get down the 20 or so feet of staircase. And you see like a tail swishing as it's going like up those little sets of stairs and making a corner into that opening.
Yeah, I'm that way.
Okay. Are you like running after it at this point, or are you just like speed walking?
Jogging? Can I say
Okay.
jogging? Happy medium?
Yeah, that's fine. So Kale kind of like, he doesn't like take off sprinting, but he like rounds the corner, looks around, and like takes off in a jog. Just for everyone's like, he hasn't said anything. You have no idea what's going on, but he's got his eye fixed on something. So you head your way up the stairs. There's this large archway, and you see through like a long room that leads deeper. That leads further back than what you would expect, given that this seems to have been the sort of like where the hallway was and all the upper floors, and the rooms were maybe like 20 or 30 feet deep. This seems to lead back about 50 feet or so. There are like braziers that seem to be lining the walls, or what were at one point braziers. And on the far end is a stone wall, and there is a large like brass or like goldeny orange brown metallic door on the far side. It does have what looks like, you're pretty far away, but true sight and all that. You see like what is the symbol? How to describe this? It's like an open book that is like slightly tilted at you at like an angle, so there's like a bit of perspective in the sort of like artwork of this. And above it is the sort of like sconce and candle sort of like symbol of Deneir. You easily recognize it to be like of that design. And this is the first indication that you've come across that this was in any way associated with Deneir, and it's at the very like lowest portion that you found so far, and at the back of like a long hallway that leads further back than you would expect. And as you're like looking around you, you don't see this horse anymore, or this whatever it was. You notice that there probably was a wall here at some point, and during whatever caused all the damage to the temple, it caused this wall to collapse. Maybe it wasn't well constructed to begin with because it was intended to be accessed often or something like that. But there's like rubble where this might have looked like just the back of this way over the water. It has like fallen away, and you can see this door at the end of this tunnel or like hallway. And I think that's a good time to end it for this week. And I think Carl had something you need to say.
Something very important.
Yeah.
Yes. When we came back from break, I was supposed to read some stuff and say some stuff and do some stuff. So let me just get the chat back up because I lost it. And there it is.
I know.
All right. So we are sponsored. We wanted to give a special thanks to our sponsors at Campaign Coins. They are great human beings who make really great metal coins and other RPG accessories. So go check them out at campaigncoins.com and on Twitter at campaigncoins. And if you enjoy the folks that are on this stream right now, then you may enjoy talking to them off stream and in our Discord. Hang out with us on Discord, and subscribers and Patreons, they get special perks when they join as well. Also be sure to follow us on the Twitters. On Twitter, we are open for adventure, not FOR adventure. That way you are always notified when there are new shows and events going on.
Thumbs up. I'm glad you do that and not me, because I would forget every single time. So thanks for hanging out with us today. My name's Kitty Quixotic. You can find me everywhere as Kitty Quixotic. I played everyone that wasn't them, which I don't think was actually anyone today. I played a horse. I played maybe a horse. That
Maybe
could
a
have
horse.
been an illusion. Who knows?
Oh,
Well, I would have known if it was an illusion. I had true sight.
You can see the illusions. You don't know if it's an illusion or not. No, I said you could tell that it was. I was kidding.
I spent the goddamn 6-level slot. I better know if there's a fucking...
I know, dang it. No, I already told you that it was in the ethereal plane. So, no worries. I'm just teasing you.
I being drunk.
Yeah, I do that. I stream sometimes. Mostly I try to be funny on Twitter. So, yeah. And I'll do... I think my favorite thing... I'm going to go ahead and do it first this time. I think my favorite thing was... it was a combination of the, like, throwing crab Iskar and crab Iskar in general, but also the like one-handed offhand don't spill your drink fight between Wantham and Nos. That was great. That was a fun moment. Okay, your turn.
Hi, I'm Carl. I am everyone who also was not them, but specifically Lafcadio Whitehorn, the Tabaxi Warlock. You can find me weekly here. We stream from 11 to 2 Eastern on Saturdays. You can also find me and Casey on this channel starting January 1st, New Year's Day, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern for a brand new campaign. Again, check out the Twitters for that announcement and subsequent announcements. And if that's not enough, Carl and Casey, you can also catch us Friday nights on Saverick's channel. That's twitch.tv/Saverick for our Planescape game. My favorite part of today, this afternoon, was the barrel roll, sudden and unexpected twist, and then the consequences that happened afterwards, which fortunately were dodged. And that's it.
That's it. I'm Vinny. I played Kale Irvine, the half-elf and cleric of Deneir, who has no titles until he finishes part of the adventure. And then maybe I'll sit down and I'll think of titles that I can announce in an exciting fashion, like other people in this party will after me. My favorite part, I think, I liked when we just had stopped on top of that hill and everybody got their own like moment. I thought that was nice. Everybody, I think, did pretty well with it, and I enjoyed seeing it happen. And now I'm done, and it's Casey's turn.
That's my name. I'm Casey. I have been champion time more on Pillar of Plains, Heckler, Big Fire Chicken, Shoot by the Storm, Slayer of Shadows, and also the boss of Neverwinter. Like Carl said, you can catch me soon on a new show that's premiering on New Year's Day at 9 p.m. EST called Strands. And then also Friday evenings, like he said, Echoes of the Aether, Planescape, Big Bango. Favorite parts included specifically the phraseology that was going down when Graham was describing the devil crab with eye stalks of the Inferno of the Damned blazing within them. Painted a very good picture. And also, I thought it was incredibly amusing when Katie apologized for saying the word moist. That's me.
Hi, my name is Graham, or Graham Crackers. You can find me on Twitch TV/Graham Crackers, or you can find me every Friday from 8 to 10:30. Sorry, I lied. I shouldn't say every Friday because it's mostly not every Friday. You can find me occasionally on Tales of Valeria on Twitch, where I DM a bunch of morons and try to keep up with their antics. Usually can't. You can also find me Saturdays from 11 to 2:30 here on the Half Right Heroes. I play Tazlin Evrio, your favorite Shatterkai wizard, and occasional laughingstock. My favorite part was probably Katie's descriptions of the whole cave itself. It painted a very good picture, and I enjoyed it. Even if Tazlin's not appreciative of it. But yeah, that was my favorite part. On to wherever this journey goes.
All right.
It's true. We will be rating. But again, one more time, special thanks to Superman Isaac, who just now dropped another sub bomb for 10 more subs. Superman Isaac has gifted us 60 subs during this game. I've never seen such generosity. Thank you, sir or ma'am. But yes, Scraticus is in the middle of a 12-hour stream, it looks like. So if you stay tuned after the credits, we will be rating them. So, take so long.
Thank you. See you next time.
See you next week. Maybe.